Chapter 858. Hence, when the great Tang nation's royal court came to ask this fat lord to be cannon fodder, this fat lord immediately rejected them. Xiao Chen's expression froze. Then he said, "Brother Dabao, I'm afraid you won't be able to refuse this cannon fodder." Kim Taeho was stunned for a moment before reacting. He smiled and said, "Don't look for your fat brother for this. You are strong. Naturally, you dare to go anywhere. This fat lord's body really cannot take the torture. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave first." Patting his butt, Kim Taeho stood up and prepared to leave. The Sky Dome Immortal Realm was not as poetic as its name suggested. There were all sorts of ferocious beasts and spatial storms in there. If one was not careful, one might lose their life there. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, and another astral coin appeared in his hand. Then he tossed it at Fatso. Wuxia. Turning around, Kim Taeho reacted quickly and caught the astral coin. Based on his reaction, he seemed to have expected Xiao Chen to make such a move. Haha. In this world, only you, brother Xiao Chen, can keep up with this fat lord's thoughts. Fatso smiled so widely that a flower bloomed on his face. He was overjoyed in his heart. With 2 astral coins, this fat lord would be able to buy a sect in the Kunlun realm. Let's go. Xiao Chen had already figured out Fatso's game of loosening the reins only to grasp better. Naturally, he knew that the other party did not really want to reject him. Xiao Chen brought out his full power and tore space while carrying Fatso. They moved as fast as lightning. In merely half a day, they arrived at the great Tang nation's imperial capital. When Fatso saw Xiao Chen's horrifying strength, he felt extremely excited in his heart. This transaction was definitely profitable. Not to mention the 2 astral coins, which were worth a rank 8 sex astral coin, he would definitely gain some benefits if he followed Xiao Chen to the Sky Dome Immortal Realm. Even if Kim Taeho did not give him any treasures, bringing Xiao Chen to the Sky Dome Immortal Realm would not be a loss for him. Thinking about the 2 priceless star coins in his pocket, Fatso could not help but feel extremely pleased. Xiao Chen was strong, but his intelligence was still a little lacking compared to the fat lord. Outside the imperial palace, Xiao Chen put on the Sky Sea cloak and said, "You can go in and negotiate. Don't worry, they won't be able to find me. I'll just follow you in." After saying that, he vanished. Fatso looked around and could not help saying, he really disappeared. This Kunlun realm really has many treasures. "Stop dawdling. I'm right beside you. Hurry up and go." Xiao Chen's voice sounded in his mind. Kim Taeho was shocked and looked at it for a long time. He was completely convinced by this treasure. However, Xiao Chen thought to himself, with Xiao Chen's intelligence he could do well in the Kunlun realm. This fat lord would definitely be able to do well there. Just as Xiao Chen thought this, he proved his identity. Immediately, a major character of the royal court came to receive him. The Jin clan was a top-tier clan in the Great Tang Nation. Now it was like the sun in the sky. When the major characters heard that Fatso had changed his mind and wanted to go to the Sky Dome Immortal Realm, the major characters of the royal court hesitated. The various royal court's teams had already set off. If Fatso went now, he would not be able to help the Great Tang Nation's royal court disciples. However, due to Kim Taeho's reputation, the major characters reluctantly agreed despite their reluctance. Xiao Chen hid himself and followed Xiao Chen to the depths of the imperial palace. There, they arrived before a tightly guarded transportation formation. This transportation formation gave off an ancient, vast, and desolate aura. There were rings of medial-grade spirit stones around the transportation formation. From the looks of it, there were at least several tens of millions of them. Fatso casually stood on the transportation formation. Xiao Chen stood beside him, but no one noticed him. Boom! The medial-grade spirit stones burned, and the ancient formation activated. A white light flashed and space twisted. Then Xiao Chen and Kim Taeho disappeared from the formation at the same time. A light flashed, and Xiao Chen and Kim Taeho appeared in the Sky Dome Immortal Realm. What would the Sky Dome Immortal Realm be like? Xiao Chen and Kim Taeho were rather curious. At the very least, they had some fantasies. However, when they arrived, they revealed disappointed expressions. Kim Taeho smiled and said, "I just knew that this rundown place is not much. I did not expect it to be so rundown." Xiao Chen sized up his surroundings. The sky was primal chaos. There was no sunlight, only howling spatial storms rushing back and forth. The pieces of spatial shards were sharper than any knife. Just looking at them made him feel somewhat flustered. Countless spatial shards formed tornadoes. As they stirred, it looked like there were many man-eating ferocious beasts hiding in the sky, opening their ferocious mouths. When Xiao Chen looked down, the air was turbid and humid. Not to mention the Kunlun realm, it was even worse than the Tianwu continent. The flowers and grass on the ground were all uneven. At first glance, one would think that they were malnourished. Xiao Chen opened his mouth and said somewhat flabbergasted, "Speaking of which, Brother de Bao, did we come to the wrong place?" Pa. Suddenly, a palm-sized mosquito leaped out. Fatso reacted quickly. He swatted the folding fan in his hand, sending this mosquito flying far away. However, it did not die. It should be right. The Great Tang Nation's royal court would not lie to me about this. This mosquito is really extraordinarily big, Kim Taeho said with lingering fear as he watched the mosquito fly over again. Xiao Chen smiled casually and said, "The one on your butt is even bigger." A miserable shriek rang out. Fatso jumped up from the ground in pain. When he turned his head to look, he saw a black mosquito the size of his face resting silently on his butt. Its sharp and long beak pierced through his clothes like a needle, sucking happily. Fatso immediately swatted it with the folding fan in his hand. Pa. Pa. After swatting twice, the mosquito did not die. Furthermore, the mosquito that he swatted earlier also flapped its wings and flew over. 2 strands of saber chi flashed, and electric light exploded. These 2 mosquitoes were immediately blasted into pieces. Xiao Chen, who was standing at the side, had made a move. Damn. 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 Kim Taeho held his, but as he jumped up and down on the ground, shouting as though his parents had died. Buzz. 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 The air suddenly trembled, and a strong wind blew at the 2. Xiao Chen looked up and saw a large swarm of mosquitoes flying out from the grass in front. The howling wind was the result of the swarm of mosquitoes flapping their wings. "Let's go." Xiao Chen picked up the pale Kim Taeho and soared into the air. Then he turned around and used his palm as a saber, executing the starting stance of the lightning tribulation saber technique. Wind and lightning gathering. The purple lightning talisman in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness spun once. The shape of the saber soul, and the 4 strands of golden light were instantly drawn over. When Xiao Chen chopped out with his palm, a strand of saber chi containing 90% comprehended saber intent and 40% comprehended will of thunder immediately shot out from his palm. Thunder and wind roared, and the 4 strands of purple saber chi with golden light flowing on them tore through the air, shattering this swarm of blood-sucking mosquitoes into pieces. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, he could not help but be flabbergasted. There were a few mosquitoes in there. They were actually intact, not dying from the combined attacks of the spatial shards and the saber chi. However, they knew how powerful Xiao Chen was. They flapped their wings and slowly flew back through the spatial shards. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze, and a strand of red light shot out from his forehead. He summoned out the massacre throne. A scarlet cloud carried the throne as it floated quietly in front. When Fatso saw the throne, he immediately rejoiced. He laughed loudly and said, "How domineering! This throne is tailor-made for this fat lord." After saying that, Fatso let go of Xiao Chen's hand and soared into the air, landing on the throne and landing on his butt. Another blood-curdling scream rang out. The fatty clutched his buttocks and shot out from the throne. When Kim Taeho landed on the scarlet cloud, his complexion paled. He said, "Xiao Chen, why do I feel that there is a hole in my butt? Blood is gushing out like a fountain." Xiao Chen looked at the hole in Kim Taeho's butt, and sympathy flashed in his eyes. He said, "It's fine. You are overthinking. It is just a hole." Riding on the scarlet cloud, Xiao Chen flew higher and higher on the throne. In the blink of an eye, he was high up in the sky, about to face that horrifying spatial storm. Up on the scarlet cloud, Kim Taeho, who kept turning his head around, trying to see the wound on his butt. When he saw Xiao Chen's actions, he could not help being startled. Startled, he exclaimed, "Xiao Chen, are you crazy? This is a spatial storm, a storm formed by fragments of space. Even Grandmaster-level martial sages can be easily torn to shreds. I know. However, this only applies to Grandmaster-level martial sages in the Sky Dome realm. Xiaochen replied calmly. Then he pressed 2 fingers to his forehead, and a beam of purple light shot out. Then it split into 4, turning into 4 small golden sabers that guarded one area. The moment the sabers entered the sky, 8 tornadoes made up of spatial fragments charged at Xiaochen from all directions. These tornadoes looked like ferocious beasts baring their fangs, wanting to swallow up Xiaochen. Suddenly, the 4 small golden sabers danced around. Beams of golden light of 4 different colors formed a screen of sabers flickering with electricity, tightly encasing the scarlet throne. The screen of golden sabers silently sliced the 8 spatial storms into countless tiny pieces. Then they vanished completely, and the throne entered the void. There were still cracks in the void, and the strong winds that came out were still extremely horrifying storms filled with hidden energy. As Xiaochen sat on the throne, he did not panic. With a wave of his hand, the 4 small golden sabers destroyed all the hidden energy. This stunned Fatso, who was on the scarlet cloud, and he cried out repeatedly. As Xiaochen moved quickly in the sky, he soon caught up with the groups. Occasionally, Xiaochen used his spiritual sense to check below. Finally, he saw the group of the Great Qin Nation's royal court. There were several familiar faces in this large group. When Xiaochen saw the state of these people, and paid special attention to Yingyu's strength, he relaxed. With Yingyu here, this group of Great Qin Nation's royal court was safe. Without any worries, Xiaochen moved even faster. That horrifying spatial storm was like child's play to him. With a flick of his finger, it shattered. The towering longevity tree entered Xiaochen's eyes. He sat on the scarlet throne and slowly descended from the sky. They slowly descended from the sky. In the end, they managed to arrive in front of the longevity tree ahead of everyone else. Chapter 859. A loud roar resounded. Before the scarlet throne landed, a berserk ferocious beast appeared below. This ferocious beast gave off a berserk aura. When it opened its mouth, it kicked up a strong wind that seemed like it could flip up the surface of the sea. Puxi. The 4 small golden sabers merged into one, and turned into a purple talisman. Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and the talisman flickered and instantly broke the strong wind. When the throne landed, Xiaochen withdrew the talisman. A 20-meter-tall, 100-meter-long ferocious beast was chopped in half and laid on the ground. Kim Taeho exclaimed exaggeratedly, "This is a ferocious beast equal to a martial sage. Unexpectedly, you instantly killed it in one move." As Xiaochen spoke, Kim Taeho did not stop moving. He held his butt and jumped down from the scarlet cloud. Then he quickly searched through the corpses. Soon he found a spirit core covered in black spots. Fatso laughed loudly and paced excitedly on the ground. He said, "A martial sage-level spirit core containing immortal qi. I struck it rich this time. Even if this fat lord has another hole in my butt, it will be worth it." Right after Fatso spoke, he saw the longevity tree bearing heavy red fruits thrust a branch at Kim Taeho like a golden fork at lightning speed. Its speed was even faster than Xiaochen's. Kim Taeho had just obtained the spirit core, and was somewhat carried away. He accidentally walked into the attack range of the longevity tree. It looked like he would not be able to dodge in time, and would be pierced by the branch. Electric light flashed under Xiaochen's feet. In the time it took for a spark to fly, he quickly dodged. Then he picked up Kim Taeho and retreated. Back and forth, as Xiaochen moved quickly, pitch-black cracks appeared in space. After escaping death, Fatso heaved a long sigh. Then he put away the spirit core covered in black spots and said to Xiaochen, "Fortunately, brother, you are fast. Otherwise, I would not have been able to escape unscathed." As Xiaochen spoke, he did not realize that a hole had appeared on his right, but as well. Blood poured out like a fountain. There was a kind of pain that, when reached the extreme, would make one numb. Xiaochen made a sad expression. He didn't know if Kim Taeho was in the same situation. The grades of the spirit trees were also divided into sage, king, emperor, and immortal. This division was similar to the grades of secret treasures. It was mainly for the convenience of trading between cultivators, and the identification of treasures. The moon cassia tree was a saint-tier spirit tree. and the longevity tree was a grade higher than it. It was a king-tier spirit tree, and because of its special effect of increasing one's lifespan, it was ranked in the top 3 among the king-tier spirit trees. Regardless of cultivation level or race, a single longevity fruit could increase a person's lifespan by 100 years for the first time. Within 100 years, Xiaochen might be able to make another breakthrough, advancing further on the path of cultivation. Its value was easy to imagine. Even in the Kunlun realm, it would be a top treasure. Xiaochen counted carefully. There were only about 20 of the heavy red fruits on the longevity tree. They bore fruit once every 1,000 years. Such a number was truly rare. Scarlet spiritual energy wafted out of the longevity fruit, making one drool. Kim Taeho stared straight at it. However, he no longer dared to approach it. Clearly, this longevity tree had gained sentience long ago. Now that the longevity fruit had not ripened yet, it naturally did not allow anyone to approach. As Xiaochen looked at the longevity fruit that was about to ripen, he entered deep thought. Before the longevity fruit matured, the longevity tree would not allow anyone to approach it. Kim Taeho's earlier fate was a good example of the consequences of getting close. As long as the longevity tree matured, the longevity fruit would fall automatically. As for how many fell, that would depend on luck. Sometimes 1 or 2 fell, and the longevity tree would burrow into the ground, running off to some unknown place. Naturally, such a result was not what Xiaochen wanted. Since he was already here, he had to collect all 20 longevity fruits. Xiaochen pushed off the ground, and his figure flashed as he flew towards the longevity tree. The peaceful, towering tree instantly came to life. Many long branches extended out endlessly, piercing through space and shooting at Xiaochen. Electric light flickered under Xiaochen's feet. In that instant, he executed Thunder Dragon steps to its limits. His figure moved so fast that one could not even see his shadow. He tried to approach the longevity tree from all directions. Cassier. After a while, Xiaochen broke off a branch and retreated safely. He now had a rough understanding of this longevity tree's strength. This longevity tree had indeed gained sentience. However, it had only gained sentience recently, and its cultivation was not deep enough. While its attacks looked fast, they were not methodical. After familiarizing himself with the longevity tree, he could easily dodge. Xiaochen looked around. There were still some mutated ferocious beasts eyeing this place covetously. However, they did not dare to get close to Xiaochen. The lunar shadow saber appeared in his hand. These ferocious beasts did not dare to be impudent towards Xiaochen. However, that did not mean that Xiaochen would let them off. After about 7 minutes, Xiaochen chased away all the ferocious beasts in the surroundings. Those that could not flee in time were killed by him. By the time Xiaochen returned, the longevity fruits had not ripened yet. Xiaochen could not help but frown. It looked like he had come too early. If he had waited any longer, the great Jin nation's cultivators would have arrived. Earlier, when Xiaochen passed by the sky, the great Jin nation's royal court was indeed strong. Among them, there were 3 old men who had lived for countless years. Their cultivations were terrifyingly deep. Although Xiaochen did not fear peak grandmaster-level martial sages, once the longevity fruits ripened, he would not be able to avoid being implicated by them. If things went wrong, Xiaochen's plan to collect all the longevity fruits would be ruined. That would be a huge loss. Xiaochen frowned and thought for a long time. Then he remembered that there were still 2 rank 3 spirit veins origins in the immortal spirit ring that had not been exhausted yet. What are you thinking of doing? Don't even think about those 2 rank 3 spirit veins origins. If you use them, there will be no more left. Ao Jiao was like a housekeeper, keeping the rank 3 spirit veins origins in the immortal spirit ring tightly. Xiaochen smiled bitterly. He knew that Ao Jiao liked to take care of the plants in the immortal spirit ring. Keeping the spirit veins origins was for his own good. However, he had no choice but to use them now. After a long time, Xiaochen finally got Ao Jiao to agree to take out a rank 3 spirit veins origin. Xiaochen waved his hand, and the rank 3 spirit veins origin silently flew to the top of the longevity tree. After a while, it turned into spiritual rain and fell. The longevity tree happily absorbed the spiritual rain. The bright red skin of the longevity fruits on the tree thinned bit by bit as they grew rapidly. Fatso smiled with some heartache. Brother Xiaochun, you are really generous. A rank 3 spirit vein's origin is even more valuable than a longevity fruit. Xiaochun smiled and did not reply. In the Sky Dome realm, a rank 3 spirit vein's origin was indeed more valuable than a longevity fruit. However, in the Kunlun realm the situation was different. If he could pick all 20 longevity fruits before the spirit tree burrowed underground, Xiaochun would earn a lot on this trip. A fervent look appeared in Xiaochun's calm eyes. His heart was filled with boundless anticipation. When the longevity fruits ripened, he would collect all of the 7 colored auspicious signs, giving Lu Ruyue a pleasant surprise. On the way to the longevity tree, Yingyu led the great Qin nation's people, killing the ferocious beasts blocking the way. The ferocious beasts here were not easy to deal with. They all had the bloodline of immortal beasts in their veins. Even as a half-sage, she did not dare to move around without fear. Fortunately, there was a peak superior grade martial sage senior in the group. Although he rarely made a move, he helped Yingyu share a lot of the pressure. Aside from that senior, who was nearing the end of his lifespan, Xiaochun was familiar with the others in the group. There was no need to mention Yingyu, Feng Feixue, and Lu Ruyue. As for the remaining two, Xiaochun had not seen them for many years. One was his half-brother, Xiao Jian, and the other was his cousin, Xiao Yulan, who once knelt down to plead for him. Feng Feixue had introduced these two to the Heavenly Qin School in the imperial capital. After that, they gained the appreciation of the princess and joined the Imperial Dragon Legion. Now they were Yingyu's trusted subordinates. Yingyu held the Grand Imperial Spear and brandished it. She fought a half-sage ferocious beast alone, and killed it rather easily. After that, she looked up at the sky doubtfully. When Yingyu withdrew her gaze, she discovered that Lu Ruyue was frowning as well, shifting her gaze away from the sky. The others also felt doubtful. Earlier, they all felt a familiar gaze sweep through them from the sky. Only that senior, who was nearing the end of his lifespan, did not feel anything. When he saw the strange expressions of the group, he said, "Don't overthink it. No one in the Sky Dome realm dares to move about in the spatial storm in the sky, unless they are tired of living." Seeing the senior with the highest cultivation say this, the others did not dare to voice their opinions. Only Lu Ruyue still felt confused. That gaze earlier was too familiar. It was just a flash, but it felt very real. Yingyu collected her thoughts and said, "Let's go. The people of the Great Jin Nation are already far ahead of us." The group killed the ferocious beasts along the way and continued forward. After putting in a lot of effort, they finally saw the top of the longevity tree. When they looked up, the group could not help but feel gratified. Aside from the Great Jin Nation's royal court, they were the fastest. As long as they put in a bit more effort, they would be able to obtain some of the 7 colored auspicious signs. They would not have to return empty-handed. As long as they obtained a strand of 7 colored auspicious signs, their cultivation would soar significantly. If they were lucky and obtained a few more strands, their cultivation might even increase by a grade. Haha. Indeed, it is as I expected. The one following closely behind is indeed you, Princess Yingyu. Before the smiles on the group's faces faded, 3 great Jin Nation princes appeared at the intersection in front, leading a group of people. There was also a superior grade martial sage in their group. However, the 3 grandmaster-level martial sages were not with them. They must have arrived earlier. When Yingyu and the others saw this group of people suddenly appear, their expressions changed slightly. The Jing Nation's royal court wanted to delay them and monopolize the longevity fruits and 7 colored auspicious signs. The person who spoke was the Great Jin Nation's first prince, Qin. At such a young age, he had already advanced to peak superior grade martial monarch. His talent was only slightly weaker than Yingyu's. Yingyu's pretty face turned slightly cold. She said coldly, "Qin, it is best not to be too ruthless. You scheme so much and use such despicable methods. In the end, you will not have a good ending." Chapter 860. Qin laughed heartily. His eyes were filled with a domineering light as he said, "You are too naive. I will stop you now." "So what?" Let's see who will obtain the longevity fruit and the 7-colored auspicious sign in the end. You might be strong, but with the 3 of us working together, we really aren't afraid of you. If you have the ability, then come and force your way through. The senior from the Great Qin nation, who was nearing the end of his lifespan, frowned slightly. The old man in the other side's team was clearly targeting him, not letting him off. There were also people watching Xiao Jian, Lu Ruyue, and the others. Even though the Great Qin nation's royal court had lost their 3 strongest people, they could still suppress them. Yingyu's expression turned unsettled. She had not expected the people of the Great Qin nation to be so shameless, not giving outsiders a chance at all. Just as the longevity fruit was about to ripen, they stopped them. Suddenly, colorful lights flickered in the sky. The longevity fruit had finally ripened. Auspicious signs filled the sky as they descended. When Yi Qin saw this scene, he could not help but reveal a pleased expression. The 3 royal clan elders should already be near the longevity tree. Thinking of this, Xiaoqian's lips could not help but curl up. He looked at the unsightly expressions of Yingyu and the others. He laughed loudly and said, "Good, the longevity fruit has ripened. Princess Yingyu, I will stand here. Let's see how you are going to make me suffer." Right after Yi Qin spoke, an ear-piercing alarm rang out. Yi Qin's expression changed. He turned his head to look at the sky and said strangely, "With the strength of the 3 seniors, why would they send out such a distress call?" Yi Qin could not be bothered with Yingyu and the others. The situation had probably taken a turn for the worse. He quickly led the group to where the longevity tree was. Xiao Jian stepped forward and asked doubtfully, "Princess, what's wrong with this group of people?" Yingyu thought for a while and quickly made a decision. She said, "It looks like they are in trouble. Come, let's follow them." The royal family of Jin Nation, who was initially domineering and unreasonable, suddenly changed their attitude and left in a hurry. Naturally, Yingyu and the others would not let go of this opportunity. They quickly followed behind. Lu Ruyue did not know why, but her heart pounded heavily. She suddenly thought of a possibility. She thought of the gaze she saw on the road earlier. She had never doubted the authenticity of that gaze. Even when the superior grade martial sage of the Great Qin nation's royal court said that no one could walk in the Sky Dome realm, she didn't doubt that there was definitely a gaze like that standing above the 9 heavens, shuttling through the endless spatial storms, looking deeply at her. As Lu Ruyue thought this, her speed increased significantly. She circulated the quintessence in her body, without caring about the expenditure. Soon, she was standing shoulder to shoulder with Yingyu. She desperately wanted to know the answer. Was the owner of that gaze, the person who had stopped to look at her in the 9 heavens, the person she had been thinking about day and night? After a while, the Great Qin nation's royal court and Yingyu's group arrived at where the longevity tree was. When they saw the situation clearly, they were all dumbfounded. The 7-colored auspicious signs falling from the sky were collected by a fatso holding a jade bottle. The smile on his face was even brighter than the radiance of spring. The 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages of the Great Qin nation's royal court were easily blocked by a mysterious man wearing a cloak. That black-cloaked man used his arms as a saber. Electric light burst out, and saber chi flew everywhere. Hundreds of lightning flood dragons circled around him. As the black-cloaked man brandished his saber, the lightning flood dragons howled wildly. With a gentle palm strike, he knocked back the Grandmaster-level martial sages who wanted to charge up, not holding back at all. The 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages either attacked one after another or worked together. However, without exception, the black-cloaked man blocked all of them. When Fatso, who was above, saw this scene, he laughed loudly in delight. Then he started collecting the 7-colored auspicious signs at an even faster speed. It looked like the auspicious signs were about to run dry. The 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages below could not help but feel even more anxious. The group of people from the Great Qin nation's royal court was completely stunned. These were bona fide Grandmaster-level martial sages. Their lifespans were about to end. After a long time, they had tempered their cultivations to a very deep level. All of them were people who stood at the peak of the Sky Dome realm. However, when the 3 of them worked together, one person easily blocked them. Where exactly did this black-cloaked man come from? It's over. The auspicious signs are all gone. A youth beside the great Jin nation's first prince said with great heartache. The main purpose of this trip had been ruined. These people were young and did not have to worry about their lifespans. Naturally, the longevity fruit would not be of much use to them. The expressions of Ing Yu and the others changed slightly. The auspicious signs were all gone. This person was far stronger than the people from the great Jin nation's royal court. They had no chance at all. Fatso chuckled and tossed the jade bottle containing the auspicious signs to Xiaochen. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and caught it. His lips could not help but curl up. When he looked at the three old men charging up again, a cold look flashed in his eyes. Earlier, Xiaochen was worried that he would not be able to collect all the auspicious signs if he was distracted. Hence, he could only do his best to block these three. Now that he had obtained the auspicious signs, he no longer needed to be polite with these three old men. If he did not deal with them now, they would be a problem when the longevity fruits fell. Twin dragons playing with pearl. Xiaochen used his palm as a saber and chopped with it, executing the third move of the dragon subduing slash. A pearl-like light struck one of the old men's chest. Before this person could react, two dragon-shaped saber chi flew over and struck his chest. There was no way for him to dodge. There was a loud bang, and a bright light flashed. This twin dragons playing with pearl severely injured this person. He would not be able to recover within half a year. Xiaochen's figure flashed. He did not show any mercy. He turned around and headed for the other old man. His figure moved as fast as lightning, giving off loud bang. 7 profound fingers. That old man was startled. As he retreated in a fluster, he gathered all the heavenly sage laws in his body and formed a vast storm behind him. Then he stretched out his hand and pointed. 7 streaks of light of different colors pierced through the air, tearing cracks in the sky. Each of the streaks of light was powerful enough to shatter mountains and rivers. Under the hood, Xiaochen's expression was as calm as still water. His figure moved forward, not slowing down at all. Just as he was about to touch the 7 beams of light, he suddenly attacked, circulating all the vital qi in his body. Xiaochen suddenly attacked, circulating all the vital qi in his body, and attacking with his full power. A horrifying force that was infinitely close to 1,500 tons of force exploded in the air. In that instant, the world shook, and a huge black hole appeared in space. The 7 beams of light suddenly broke apart. Xiaochen passed through the black hole. The shock wave of his fist light did not diminish at all as it struck the old man. That old man vomited a mouthful of blood, and went flying back. He slid on the ground for 100 meters in a sorry state, coughing endlessly. His eyes revealed an expression of disbelief. Xiaochen held 2 fingers together, and a beam of light shot out from his forehead. The purple lightning talisman flickered. When the remaining old man saw an electric light, a bowl-sized bloody hole appeared in his chest. A strong wind blew endlessly. In the blink of an eye, Xiaochen knocked out the 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages one by one. The hearts of the people below all sank. Such strength was unimaginable. He did not seem like a Sky Dome Realm cultivator at all. However, Xiaochen ignored the shock of these people. His figure flashed, and he landed on the ground. Then he quietly watched the longevity fruits that were about to fall to the ground. Based on the usual pattern, not all 20 longevity fruits would fall to the ground. The longevity tree would move away on its own. Xiaochen paused for a moment before charging at the longevity tree. Kasie. Kai. Tree branches pierced through space, charging at Xiaochen. Xiaochen, who had anticipated this long ago, did not panic. He dodged the countless tree branches that could easily pierce through a mountain. Then he gently plucked a longevity fruit and held it in his hand. The longevity tree was thoroughly enraged. Its branches intertwined and looked like flood dragons as they bit at Xiaochen. Xiaochen did not clash head-on. His figure flashed as he flew upwards. Then he clenched his right hand, and another longevity fruit flew into his universe ring. Xiaochen's agile figure brushed past the longevity tree's attack, as everyone tensed up. When the 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages on the ground saw this scene, they could not help but vomit blood in frustration. The longevity fruits that they had been waiting for 10 years were picked by Xiaochen like he was picking peaches. The 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages cursed in their hearts, hoping that the longevity tree would pierce thousands of holes in Xiao Chun and kill him without a complete corpse. However, things did not go as they wished. Xiao Chun kept brushing shoulders with danger. The group could only watch as the longevity fruits dwindled, unable to do anything about it. Wuxia. Wuxia. With only 3 longevity fruits remaining, the longevity tree could no longer endure Xiao Chun's plundering. It sank down, and its huge trunk sank into the ground with a flash of light. How could Xiao Chun let the longevity tree do as it pleased? In the time it took for a spark to fly, he punched a deep pit in the ground and quickly dove in. After a while, Xiao Chun flew back with a piece of the longevity tree's spiritual wood branch in satisfaction. At the last moment, Xiao Chun reacted quickly and put away the remaining 3 longevity fruits. Seeing Xiao Chun appear, the great Jin nation's people glared at Xiao Chun with bloodshot eyes. However, they did not dare to say anything. This fellow who suddenly appeared messed up their plans. Originally, they had planned to monopolize the 7-colored auspicious signs and the longevity fruits that fell to the ground. However, they did not manage to obtain anything. Furthermore, the 3 Grandmaster-level martial sages were beaten half to death. When Lu Ruyue and the others saw this scene, they did not show anything on their faces. However, they felt very carefree in their hearts. In the first place, they had always been bullied by the great Jin nation's royal court in this Sky Dome immortal realm. In the earlier scene, the first Prince Ichin's attitude was even more overbearing, causing everyone to feel a great deal of anger in their hearts. Are you still not going to scram? Xiao Chun shouted coldly as he looked coldly at the first prince and the others, who showed extreme dissatisfaction in their eyes. Xiao Chun did not have a good impression of this group of people. He had just used the spirit vein's origin to accelerate the ripening of the longevity fruits. In the end, 3 old men came to cause trouble. Xiao Chun had no choice but to seek Kim Taeho's help. Given Fatso's character, he would definitely not help for free. Seeing the hostile Xiao Chun under the hood, the great Jin nation's people quickly left. They feared that if they stayed any longer, Xiao Chun would really get angry. Inyu's group sighed silently. This person did not even care about the great Jin nation's royal court. Why would he be polite to them? To avoid humiliating themselves, they turned and left. Chapter 861. Everyone, long time no see. Do you really not recognize Xiao Chun anymore? Xiao Chun smiled faintly and took off his hood. Then he calmly called out to Lu Ruyue, Feng Feishue, Inyu Xiaoyulan, and Xiao Jian. The few of them turned around one by one, and saw a delicate and pretty face with a headscarf. Those familiar facial features and the sharpness between his brows were just like in the past. Without a doubt, he opened his mouth wide, unable to speak for a long time. Indeed it is him. Tears welled up in the corners of Lu Ruyue's eyes. All sorts of emotions welled up in her heart. The person she loved had really returned. There was some disbelief in Xiao Yulan's eyes. Everything she saw was real. Cousin Xiao Chun, who had knelt 3 times to express his gratitude, had actually reached such a height today. Xiao Jian was even more in disbelief than him. A bitter smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Who could have imagined that the person who had left his clan 7 years ago would grow to such a level? Xiao Chun did not say anything more. He slowly walked over and wiped away the tears at the corners of Lu Ruyue's eyes. Lu Ruyue blushed. Her flirtatious face was filled with bashfulness. The others smiled faintly and tacitly left this place. A bitter smile appeared on Xiao Yulan's face. Although she had known long ago that cousin Xiao Chun had made his choice, Xiao Yulan knew that cousin Xiao Chun had made his choice. But now that he saw it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but feel the pain in his heart. Inyu walked over and patted Xiao Yulan's shoulder. She smiled and said, "Lass, don't be sad. This fellow is just SOSO. There is no need to feel sad for him." Feng Feishue walked over leisurely. Dressed in men's clothes, she still looked as carefree and at ease as before. She even knew Xiao Yulan's heart and knew how hard Xiao Yulan had worked over the years. He hugged her tightly in his arms and patted her back. When he closed his eyes, there seemed to be a column of water at the corner of his eyes. Xiao Jian curled his lips and sat on the ground, bored, as he played with the sword in his hand. Now he was no longer that petty person from back then. There was no irreconcilable grudge between him and Xiao Chun in the first place. However, when he saw Xiao Chun's current achievements, he still felt a little emotional. Fortunately, after so many years, Xiao Chun had come to terms with it. He only hoped to advance to Martial Sage in the Sky Dome realm and protect his clan. Xiao Chun glanced over and saw Xiao Chun talking to Lu Ruyue in the distance. He looked at Xiao Chun's changed expression. He could not help but think of his father in Mo City. Xiao Xiong had never mentioned it, but everyone knew that he had been forced to chase Xiao Chun away back then. No one could understand the pain he was suffering. Xiao Jian would never forget the complicated expression on Xiao Xiong's face when he heard the news that Xiao Chun ranked first on the True Dragon ranking. He wondered if his father's solemn face would reveal a trace of a smile if he knew of his second brother's current achievements. Xiao Chun and Lu Ruyue did not chat for long before they arrived at where Ying Yu and the others were. When Xiao Chun saw the familiar faces, a smile appeared on his calm face. His old friends were all there, his old friends were all well, and his elegance was still the same. Nothing had changed. This was especially so for Xiao Chun's cousin, Xiao Yulan, whom he had not seen for many years. Back then, when he first came to this world in Mo City, the memories were still fresh in Xiao Chun's mind. As for Xiao Jian, as time passed, the two of them had grown. When Xiao Chun looked at Xiao Jian now, he realized that he was much more mature than before. Yingyu glanced at the stupefied Xiao Chun. Then she clenched her fist and threatened. Don't even mention that 7-colored auspicious signs. You are only giving them to Lu Ruyue alone. This princess is someone who holds grudges. If you leave in the future, don't blame me for playing some tricks. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and took out the jade bottle containing the 7-colored auspicious signs. Multicolored lights filled the air. When counted carefully, there were at least 207 colored auspicious signs. No matter how the 5 of them divided them, they would not be able to finish them. This auspicious sign is useless to me. You can take whatever you want based on your cultivation. Don't exceed what you can bear. The auspicious signs contained a large amount of pure spiritual energy. However, everyone's cultivation was limited and could not absorb too much. Otherwise they might explode and die. The others did not hesitate either. They had arrived here after much difficulty, all for the sake of these 7-colored auspicious signs. Yingyu's cultivation was the highest. She took 57 colored auspicious signs. Xiao Jian and the others were between inferior grade martial monarchs and medial grade martial monarchs. The gap between them and Yingyu was too great. They only took 10 or so auspicious signs. Xiao Chun carefully put away the remaining 100-odd auspicious signs. Then he looked at Kim Taeho, who was staring at him anxiously. Then he tossed over 2 more of the spirit cores that he obtained from the martial sage ferocious beasts. The sage-grade spirit cores contained a lot of immortal qi. With Xiao Chun's current cultivation, after he removed the impurities and absorbed them, his cultivation would improve significantly. Little friend, can this old man exchange for a longevity fruit with you? When the old man from the Great Qin Nation's royal court saw Xiao Chun collect the 20 longevity fruits, he felt envious. When he saw the strength that Xiao Chun displayed earlier, he had already despaired. Now that he discovered that Yingyu and the others had a close relationship with Xiao Chun, he immediately felt tempted. He did not have many years left to live. 1 longevity fruit could increase his lifespan by 100 years. The temptation of this went without saying. Xiao Chun glanced at Yingyu and saw that she was looking at him as well. Clearly, this old man had a high status in the Great Qin Nation's royal court. Xiao Chun handed over a longevity fruit straightforwardly. There is no need to stand on ceremony. The Great Qin Nation's royal court has taken great care of my Xiao clan. This longevity fruit is a token of appreciation from the younger generation. There is no need to exchange it. After the old man obtained the longevity fruit, he beamed with joy. When he heard Xiao Chun's polite words, he felt even more grateful. Xiao Chun swept his gaze over the group and thought for a while. Then he said, "Big brother, cousin Yulan, I have some things I would like to speak to you in private." The 3 went to the side and chatted for a while. Then Xiao Chun briefly described his experiences. Xiao Yulan and Xiao Jian were both deeply moved. "Cousin Xiao Chun, will you return to our Xiao clan this time?" Xiao Yulan asked with some anticipation in her eyes. Xiao Chen did not know what to say. Along the way, he had been conflicted over whether to return or not. What exactly was Father Xiao Xiong afraid of? With the great Qin nation's royal court taking care of him, could there really be someone in the Sky Dome realm who would dare to make a move on the Xiao clan? When Xiao Chen addressed Xiao Chen as big brother, all the barriers in Xiao Jian's heart disappeared. He said, I more or less know about father's worries back then. Back then, the ancestors of the Xiao clan were too tyrannical in their actions, thinking that they were the only one in the world. If anyone was dissatisfied, they would directly eliminate them. They offended too many factions. If not for some good karma, the Xiao clan, which had lost its foundation, would not have survived to this day. When the Xiao clan first entered the Sky Dome realm, they could be considered a tyrant with many experts. However, all of them were mysteriously killed in the end. It was a ghastly sight. It was only in recent years, when the Blue Dragon martial spirit disappeared, that the Xiao clan truly stabilized. Your appearance reminded father of the tragedy of our seniors. With the current Xiao clan, it is simply impossible for us to face those enemies. We had no choice but to chase you out. Xiao Chen did not object to this. Back then, when he revealed his Blue Dragon martial spirit at Bushan Palace, the Grandmaster-level martial sages of the 3 sovereign noble clans immediately tried to kill him. One could imagine how deep the impression that the Qing Emperor had left on these people back then was. However, if that was all, Xiao Chen would not care about it. With the 3 sovereign noble clans and the Haotian Emperor protecting him, that would be enough. What Xiao Chen was worried about was not these enemies in the open but those hidden in the dark, not showing any signs of doing so. In the end, Xiao Chen was still too weak. If he had the strength of the Qing Emperor back then, why would he fear small fries? What sovereign noble clans? Actually, it does not matter whether I return or not. I do not blame father, nor do I want to make things difficult for him. If the Xiao clan really faces a calamity of destruction, my heart will not be able to bear it for the rest of my life. Even when he wanted to return home, he had so many worries. Xiao Chen could not help but feel bitter in his heart. After arriving in the Kunlun realm, he had fought many battles along the way. Practically no one in the Sky Dome realm could stop him. However, when he thought about the Kunlun realm's sovereign noble clans, any Grandmaster-level martial sage could easily kill him. What did all this count for? He had to break through to the 7th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Otherwise, not to mention a Grandmaster-level martial sage, any superior grade martial sage of the Kunlun realm would be able to kill him. Then, Xiao Chen took out some of the sage-grade secret treasures that he won at the auction and handed them to the 2. Even if a sage-grade secret treasure could not bring out much of its might, it could still significantly increase the strength of a cultivator. With these sage-grade secret treasures, the overall strength of the Xiao clan should be able to rise significantly. After a while, Xiao Chen took out several high-ranked secret manuals. These were all obtained from the spatial rings of the enemies he killed in the Kunlun realm. Xiao Chen did not think much of them. However, to the current Xiao clan, they were undoubtedly supreme treasures. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen took out several spatial rings filled with superior-grade spirit stones and handed them over. Spirit stones, secret manuals, and secret treasures. With these, the Xiao clan should be able to develop rapidly within 10 years. They would definitely be able to lay a firm foundation. Xiao Chen had a vague plan in his heart. After he advanced to Martial Emperor, he would rebuild the Dragon's Gate and let the Xiao clan return to the Kunlun realm openly, back to where they belonged. This plan was very far away, so Xiao Chen could only do it step by step. He could not reveal too much either. Right now, all he could do was let the Xiao clan disciples lay a firm foundation. When Xiao Jian and Xiao Yulan saw the things that Xiao Chen took out, they were deeply shocked. Even in the Kunlun realm, some of the weaker sects would treat these as treasures. Now that Xiao Chen handed these things to the 2 of them, the overall strength of the Xiao clan would experience a qualitative increase in a short period. Seeing the joy on the 2's faces, Xiao Chen revealed a heartfelt smile. He raised his head and looked at Feng Feishyue, Ying Yu, and his beloved Lu Ruyue. Even if Xiao Chen did not need to break through to the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer, This trip back was worth it. Even if he lost to the outstanding talents of the Kunlun realm, it was still worth it. Some things could not always be measured in terms of value. Kinship, friendship, love, no matter how deep they were buried in one's heart, if one did not think about them or think about them, one would not be able to erase the imprint they left in one's heart. The group gathered together. Xiaochen got Lu Ruyue to return with Ying Yu and the others first, to wait for him at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. There were still some places in the Sky Dome Immortal Realm that Xiaochen wanted to visit. After the others left, Xiaochen slowly walked over to the pit in the ground. This was where the longevity tree had burrowed into the ground. When Xiaochen punched it, he discovered something interesting while chasing the longevity tree. Chapter 862. Xiaochen took a step forward and landed in the pit. Then he stood firmly at the bottom of the pit. There was a large blue wooden chest below. Simple and unadorned patterns were carved on the surface of the wooden chest, flickering with a faint light. Dense talisman scripts flowed on the light barrier, forming a ring of light and spreading out immortal qi. As Xiaochen looked at the wooden chest, he revealed a contemplative expression. This was once the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's residence. It was not strange for there to be a wooden chest filled with immortal qi here. The strange thing was, why was the wooden chest under the longevity tree? Why did the Sky Dome Immortal Lord place it there? As Xiaochen hesitated on whether to open the wooden chest or not, he fell into a dilemma. He had always maintained a cautious attitude toward the unknown. Open? Or not open? Open. Xiaochen revealed a determined expression. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord was a peak major character of the immortal epoch. Even the sovereign martial emperors of this era could not compare to him. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord had not left such a wooden chest under the longevity tree casually. This was a great opportunity. Xiaochen could not let it go to waste. Xiaochen stretched out his right hand, and a purple talisman appeared in his palm. This was the manifestation of Xiaochen's will. With a thought, the purple talisman turned into a soft, water-like electric light encasing his entire right hand. 4 strands of golden light swam quickly within the soft, water-like electric light. They were incredibly sharp and gave off a boundless saber intent. Xiaochen focused, and the 4 strands of golden light merged. Buzz. A boundless saber hum resounded in the pit, boundlessly vast and ferocious. Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and a strand of golden saber qi shot out from his fingertip. It was long and slender, like a gushing river. The waves behind and ahead did not stop, rising and falling. This involved some of the techniques Xiaochen grasped after his will absorbed the vague form of his saber soul. Kasi. This strand of saber qi broke the light barrier of talisman scripts on the wooden chest. Just as it was about to touch the wooden chest, the electric light in Xiaochen's hand vanished, and the saber qi vanished. Xiaochen made a grasping motion in the air, and the wooden chest flew over to him, hovering in midair. Then he gently raised his hand, and an invisible force opened the wooden chest. When the wooden chest opened, a fiery, turbid qi immediately gushed out. Xiaochen was already prepared for this, so he pointed with his finger. 300-thumb-thick heavenly sage laws flowed out of Xiaochen's body through his fingertips and intertwined to form a barrier in front of him, blocking the fiery, turbid qi. Xiaochen took a closer look and found that the wooden box contained an egg that was as smooth as white jade. Through the eggshell, he could see the scene of a void burning in flames. Within the boundless flames, there was a hazy little life. Its eyes were closed as it breathed in and out. It was fast asleep. From time to time, the hot and turbid air that spewed out was caused by this little fellow's exhalation. Look at the pitch-black space burning in the air. Xiaochen was startled in his heart. What kind of existence is this little fellow in the egg? Just its subconscious breathing has such destructive power. He now understood why this wooden box was placed under the longevity tree. The longevity tree was a peak king-grade spirit tree. Its rate of absorbing spiritual energy was the fastest in the Sky Dome Immortal Realm. Placing the egg under its roots was the best way for this little fellow to absorb more spiritual energy. However, what exactly was in the egg? The longevity tree had existed for at least 10,000 years. Despite being nourished for so long, it still had not broken out of its shell. There was also a jade strip beside the spirit egg. Xiao Chen grabbed it and sent his spiritual sense into it. He discovered that it was an immortal art called Starry Heaven Storm. This immortal art was much stronger than some of the low-ranked magic techniques recorded in the Compendium of Cultivation. It used magic energy to simulate the scene of a starry heaven storm. The moment this magic technique was executed, it would be like a starry heaven storm descending. It could instantly swallow up countless stars and turn them into dust. Of course, this was just the description. The true might of this magic technique still depended on the strength of the user. Xiao Chen only casually looked around. He did not have magic energy and could not cultivate it. To him, no matter how powerful an immortal art was, it would not be of much use. Xiao Chen closed the wooden box and tossed it into the universe ring. Then he searched the cave. Aside from sensing that the longevity tree was very deep underground, he found nothing. With a flash, Xiao Chen returned to the surface. Then he looked around, preparing to check out the other forbidden lands of the Sky Dome Immortal Realm. In the end, he was somewhat disappointed. The natural treasures in those forbidden lands were not as valuable as the longevity tree. This made sense. If there really were any heaven-defying treasures, given how long the Sky Dome Immortal Realm had existed, the senior experts would have snatched them clean long ago. How could he have gotten his hands on them? Xiao Chen did not dare to barge into the forbidden lands that others could not go to. For example, where he was now, there was a ferocious beast equal to a Grandmaster-level martial sage of the Kunlun realm. Behind that ferocious beast was a lake filled with immortal qi. There was also a pavilion in the center of the lake. Be it this immortal lake or that mysterious pavilion, they were both very attractive to Xiao Chen. However, when Xiao Chen looked at the dozing ferocious beast, he could not help but feel apprehensive. However, when he looked at the sleeping ferocious beast, the bubbles that it had spat out unconsciously exploded, shattering space. Layers of spatial shards turned into hurricanes and drifted into the sky. The spatial storms that filled the sky of the Sky Dome Immortal Realm were actually unconsciously generated by this ferocious beast while it slept. Just thinking about it made Xiao Chen feel startled. How could he dare to have any more ideas? Xiao Chen glanced at the pavilion in the center of the lake with some dissatisfaction. Then his figure flashed and he left this place, continuing to kill martial sage-level ferocious beasts. The spiritual energy of the Sky Dome Immortal Realm was very thin. With Xiao Chen's current cultivation, cultivating here for a year would not be comparable to cultivating in the Kunlun realm for a month. The spirit cores of these ferocious beasts could help Xiao Chen increase his cultivation speed. Although it would not be comparable to cultivating in the Kunlun realm, it was better than nothing. After wandering around for about 10 days, Xiao Chen arrived at the Great Qin Nation's encampment. Inyu had made arrangements long ago. After Xiao Chen reported his identity, he used the transportation formation to leave. The moon was cold and silent. Xiao Chen stood on electric light and moved quickly in the sky. He tore through the night sky like a meteor. Soon he arrived at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Qingyan Peak. Xiao Chen looked down and saw that Lu Ruyue was in the courtyard. She was still awake, practicing her saber in an empty space under the moonlight. She looked valiant and charming. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and drew the lunar shadow saber. He suppressed his cultivation and landed on the ground to practice with Lu Ruyue. The sudden appearance of Xiao Chen startled Lu Ruyue slightly. However, she recovered her wits, and a smile appeared on her face as she calmly exchanged moves with him. Right now Lu Ruyue was a peak inferior grade martial monarch. She was only a step shy of advancing to medial grade martial monarch. Naturally, such a cultivation speed was far inferior to that of the cultivators of the Kunlun realm. However, it was already very fast in the Sky Dome realm. After the two finished a set of saber techniques, they withdrew their moves at the same time. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and stepped forward to embrace Lu Ruyue. Under the moonlight, Lu Ruyue's charming face had a different kind of charm. Lu Ruyue hooked her arm around Xiao Chen's neck and looked at his delicate face. The smile on her face faded away as she asked seriously, "Why did you come back? Can you tell me the truth?" There were some things that Xiao Chen could tell Leng Tianhe, but not Lu Ruyue. Xiao Chen did not tell Lu Ruyue that he was here to undergo his tribulation. If he fell in the Kunlun realm, he would never be able to see her again. I missed you, so I came back. Lu Ruyue smiled gently and said, That's good. Let's not go back in the future, okay? Xiaochen was slightly stunned. He did not know how to answer. He was not good at lying in the first place, nor did he want to go against his heart to make a promise. Lu Ruyue's words stumped him. Seeing Xiaochen like this, Lu Ruyue gently struggled free from Xiaochen's grasp. She sighed and said, You know you will not lie. Why the need to make me happy? Seeing Lu Ruyue enter the room alone, Xiaochen stood where he was, not knowing what to do. He slowly walked to the door and knocked twice. However, he did not hear Lu Ruyue call him in. It looks like Ruyue is really angry. Xiaochen could not help but feel sad. He looked up at the bright moon in the sky, thinking about how to explain things to her. He had not intentionally hidden his true purpose for coming back. He just did not want Lu Ruyue to worry about him. However, if he did not tell her the truth, he would not be able to resolve the knot in her heart. Xiaochen could not help but fall into a dilemma. In the middle of the night, the moon hid behind the clouds. Xiaochen, who had been standing there for a long time, stood outside the door. He felt bored and started counting the stars in the sky. You idiot! The door is not locked. If you still do not come in, I will really get angry. Suddenly, Lu Ruyue's grumbling voice came from inside the room. Xiaochen's face lit up in joy as he quickly pushed the door open and entered. In the immortal spirit ring, Ao Jiao could not help but complain. A beauty on the bed, the door is not locked. Only a blockhead like Xiaochen would stand outside and count the stars. The sky had not brightened yet. Only the afterglow of dawn scattered a faint light. Xiaochen had not slept so comfortably in a long time. He opened his eyes and turned his head to look. Lu Ruyue had not woken up yet. Her eyes closed as she rested her head on his arm. Xiaochen carefully pulled his arm out and supported his head with one hand. He looked quietly at the sleeping Lu Ruyue and revealed a faint smile. His lips gently pressed against her forehead. Then, Xiaochen put on his clothes and covered Lu Ruyue with the blanket again. Then he quietly left the room. In the back mountains of Qingyun Peak, where there was a waterfall, Xiaochen sat cross-legged beside the stream. He closed his eyes and slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. As Xiaochen looked at the gushing waterfall, his expression turned grave. Every time he circulated the purple thunder divine incantation, he could clearly feel the bottleneck approaching. The horrifying lightning tribulation and the formless but even more horrifying heart tribulation would arrive at a suitable time. However, Xiaochen was much calmer now. Compared to the first time he learned about the lightning tribulation and the heart tribulation in the Haotian Stars Heaven series training room, he was much better. Now, when he saw his old friends in the Sky Dome realm and his fellow Shao clan members in Mo City, his mental state was already close to perfection. He did not care about the future, only the present. On the road to the peak, the lonely did not fear. The lonely did not fear. The courageous did not fear. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and released the spirit egg that was as smooth as white jade that he had sealed. When he saw the surging flames and the boundless sea of fire, he felt extremely confused. Ao Jiao, do you know what kind of egg this is? Chapter 863. Xiaochen was rather interested in the mysterious little fellow in the egg. Unfortunately, his spiritual sense could not penetrate too deeply into it. The space within the egg seemed to be a world of its own, boundlessly vast. Ao Jiao flew out of the immortal spirit ring and sized up this mysterious egg. However, she could not make heads or tails of it. She shook her head and said, I don't know. I have seen many powerful and noble spirit beasts. However, I really do not know a spirit beast of this color with a blazing light and an extremely berserk aura. I know several strong fire-attributed spirit beasts. However, none of them match. If I am not wrong, it should be a holy beast from the immortal epoch. Holy beast? There really is such a mythical creature? Xiaochen looked at Ao Jiao suspiciously. Ao Jiao nodded seriously and said, There definitely is. When the martial epoch was just born, there were people who frequently saw holy beasts near Kunlun Mountain. There were even people who captured holy beasts. According to rumor, the ancestors of the 4 holy lands of the human race sealed these holy beasts, and established their bloodline totems. Only then could the holy beast martial spirit be passed down to the later generations. Although the rumor might be false and outsiders do not know what is going on, it definitely has something to do with holy beasts. Otherwise, why would only your 4 holy lands have holy beast martial spirits out of all the cultivators of the human race? It looked like the immortal epic's holy beast might really be in this egg. However, it did not look like it showed any signs of breaking out of its shell. Suddenly, Ao Jiao said, "I remember now. This is a golden crow egg. It is as white as jade and as smooth as a wall. There is a boundless sea of fire surging with intense flames. The one inside is the legendary golden crow." Xiao Chen's expression changed. He could not help but feel excited. The golden crow was a famous holy beast of the immortal epic. The golden crow was a pure young holy bird, also known as the scarlet crow or the sunbird. Its body contained the supreme overlord solar true flame. When it matured, its light would be like the blazing sun, able to illuminate the entire world. It was the golden crow that competed with the sun. However, Ao Jiao's next words dampened Xiao Chen's hopes. She said, "It is very difficult to hatch this golden crow egg. Even after the Sky Dome Immortal Lord died, he could not hatch it. You can imagine how difficult it is." That's not all. Young golden crows don't have much fighting power. Even if they hatch, they won't be able to help you much. It's not much, but it's of great benefit to the sect, and it can be passed down to future generations. Xiao Chen's excitement was immediately suppressed by Ao Jiao. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Tell me what conditions are needed for it to hatch." Ao Jiao scrutinized the golden crow egg. After a while she said, "Looking at the golden crow egg, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth has almost been absorbed. Now all it lacks is the origin source of the solar true fire. Where can I find the solar true fire's origin flame?" Ao Jiao pointed to the blazing sun above and said, "The deepest part of the blazing sun of the Kunlun realm is the solar true fire's origin flame. The solar true fire of the Sky Dome realm is just a portion that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord plundered from the blazing sun." Speechless, Xiao Chen carefully put away the golden crow egg. For now he no longer had any thoughts about this. He did not think that he had lived too long, and wanted to run into the blazing sun. Before he got close, he would probably be roasted until not even a drop of blood remained. At the very least, he would have to cultivate the golden body of Emperor Wu before he could obtain some of the solar true fire. As for the origin flame in the deepest part of the universe ring, Xiao Chen thought that only a sovereign martial emperor would dare to enter it carefully. After putting away the golden crow egg, Xiao Chen started fiddling with the longevity fruits in his universe ring. His gains in the Sky Dome Immortal Realm were pretty good. The 19 longevity fruits could bring out their value in the Kunlun realm. That place did not lack old monsters nearing the end of their lifespans. All of them had lived for several hundred years. They would definitely be quite wealthy. Any one of these longevity fruits, which could increase one's lifespan by 100 years, could fetch a sky-high price. There were also a few longevity tree branches that were pretty good. He had been lacking a good medium for the life bestowal spell. The branches of a king-grade spirit tree were definitely sufficient. There were also the spirit cores of several ferocious beasts. After removing the impurities, they contained immortal chi, and were barely enough to cultivate for a while. After tidying things up, another dragon pearl appeared in Xiao Chen's hand. He had been in the Sky Dome realm for more than 2 months already. His cultivation had not improved much, but he had obtained a lot of things. This Frost Flood Dragon's dragon pearl was definitely the most useful. Even though he did not cultivate ice quintessence, it was sufficient for killing enemies. If he detonated the energy contained in this dragon pearl, even a Grandmaster-level martial sage would be severely injured. Coincidentally, he had 3 Star Breaker arrows for sneak attacks and this dragon pearl for frontal attacks. Given this, if he ran into a Grandmaster-level martial sage, he would have a trump card to deal with. After using the spirit cores of the ferocious beasts to cultivate for the entire morning, Xiao Chen returned to Qingyan Peak. Then he accompanied Lu Ruyue and wandered around the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They looked at the mountains and rivers, the flowers and grass, far away from the intense, dangerous, and hostile Kunlun realm. Even the word happy was insufficient to describe such peaceful days. The days passed leisurely like this. Aside from the necessary cultivation, Xiaochen spent most of his time on Qinyan Peak with Lu Ruyue. Sometimes, when Lu Suifeng frustrated Xiaochen, he would go to the drill ground and teach some things about saber techniques to the group of girls. The leisurely time always passed very quickly. When one was immersed in it, they even forgot about the passage of time. However, what would come would come. On a certain day 2 months later, Xiaochen touched the bottleneck of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer. Xiaochen circulated his energy slightly, and the sky changed color. Thunderclouds pressed down, and strong winds howled. So he quickly stopped cultivating. It was not that Xiaochen was afraid of the tribulation. It was that he could not choose the heavenly saber pavilion's Qinyan Peak to undergo the tribulation. Xiaochen did not explain it to Lu Ruyue. He only said a few words to Lu Suifeng before quietly leaving alone. While in midair, Xiaochen turned his head back and looked at this towering Qinyan Peak. This place held too many memories, too many entanglements. I can't get enough of it. Ao Jiao, I will come back alive, right? You have to. Even if you want to die, I will not let you die. Ao Jiao had a ferocious expression as she said. You even promised me to take revenge for the Thunder King. You are not allowed to die, and you will not die. At Qinyan Peak, where Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng had parted ways, Lu Ruyue slowly descended from the sky. She looked at Xiaochen, who had already become a small black dot in the sky, in a daze. Sis, you already knew from Senior Lung why he left. Why didn't you come out and say one last thing to him? His parting this time was a narrow escape from death. It was very sad. Lu Suifeng said helplessly as he looked at Lu Ruyue. Lu Ruyue smiled and said, he did not want me to know. In that case, I will not know. As long as my heart is not in a mess, his heart will not be in a mess, either. In the sky, Ao Jiao looked at the path Xiaochen took. She said, where are we going now? Since he is undergoing the tribulation, we have to find an absolutely quiet place. Let's go to Mo City first. After I take one more look, I will have no regrets. Xiaochen had already decided on the location of his tribulation long ago. However, before that, he had to make a trip to Mo City and watch the people of his clan from afar. Tearing through space, Xiaochen moved through the air like a meteor chasing the moon. Soon the familiar silhouette of Mo City entered his vision. After emerging from the void, Xiaochen's figure wavered and arrived in the sky above Seven Horn Mountain. From here, he could see everything in the Shao residence, big or small. Now the Shao residence had more than doubled in size. Seven Horn Mountain was filled with cultivators wearing the Shao clan's uniform, undergoing experiential training. At the foot of the mountain, the originally simple and crude campsite had been rebuilt into a majestic one. There were elite Shao clan disciples guarding this place, keeping an eye on the other cultivators who were not from the Shao clan. Everything was in order, showing signs of prosperity. Xiaochen could vaguely sense that there was a great fortune enveloping the Shao clan. Luck was ethereal and formless, but it truly existed. The Shao clan's current luck was brought by Xiaochen, be it obtaining the first rank in the 5-nation youth competition. Infusing the luck of the entire Sky Dome realm into him, he would not be able to do so. Furthermore, after absorbing the essence of the heavenly dew divine spring, Xiaochen's luck had reached a startling level. Xiaochen smiled faintly and relaxed a lot. With the current situation, in addition to the secret treasures, spirit stones, and secret manuals that he had gotten Xiao Jian and Xiao Yulan to bring back, given the Shao clan's strength, it would be hard for it not to develop. In the future, when Xiaochen became a martial emperor and collected the Blue Dragon Palace and re-established the Dragon's Gate, these fellow clansmen would be the best foundation. After taking a few more glances, Xiaochen withdrew his gaze. This time, returning to the Sky Dome realm, regardless of whether he succeeded in clearing his tribulation or not, it was worth it. There was no regret in his heart. There was no fear in his heart. Why are you acting so sneakily? Come out. Suddenly, Xiaochen frowned. The purple lightning talisman in his sea of consciousness had 4 strands of golden light on it. One strand of golden light came out of Xiaochen's fingertip and turned into a lightning-fast saber chi. Then, It shot towards the seemingly empty space in front of him. Space was like a piece of white paper. With this finger, it easily tore a pitch-black hole. Silently, the entire space suddenly shattered, not even leaving behind a shard. Tung Xiao, the Dark Church's church master of the Sky Dome realm, walked out of the pitch-black space. He wore black clothes and had a somewhat sinister expression on his face. He looked somewhat similar to Xiaochen. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes. The aura of this person was still fresh in his memory. This was the unique dark aura of the Dark Church's members. However, this person's dark aura was much denser. Furthermore, there was an additional sinister aura. Tung Xiao caught that strand of golden saber chi that could shatter space with his finger. However, what shocked Xiaochen the most was not this scene. Instead, it was this person's appearance. If Xiaochen recalled correctly, the appearance of the person in the painting of the Qing Emperor, drawing the saber, was shockingly similar to this person. If not for the dense dark aura of this person and the unconcealable sinister aura on his face, Xiaochen might have recognized the wrong person from the start. In reality, this person did not even think about concealing this sinister aura. It was like he was born this way, unrestrained by the etiquette and benevolence of the world. He was wild and unrestrained, thinking that he was the greatest in the world. Chapter 864. The golden saber chi was not that easy to catch. Tung Xiao held on to this strand of saber chi and retreated 5 kilometers in the air before he stabilized himself. I have been waiting for you for a long time already. Why did you not come to the Xiao clan? What are you afraid of? Tung Xiao casually tossed aside the golden saber chi that had already been corroded by the dark chi. His gaze was like lightning as he stared at Xiaochen. Waiting for me? Are you here to send yourself to death? Chu Chaoyan was right. This Sky Dome Realm's Dark Church does indeed have some connection to my Xiao clan. Even if you did not come to look for me, I would have come to look for you. Xiaochen flipped his right hand, and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his palm. His figure flashed, and he executed the starting stance of the lightning tribulation saber technique, without holding back. Xiaochen's 90% comprehended saber intent and 40% comprehended immortal will of thunder allowed this simple starting stance to burst forth with boundless might. As electric light burst forth, it radiated a large amount of light. The slender saber pierced through the electric light and quickly chopped at Tung Xiao. Electricity started to accumulate in the air behind Xiaochen. As they moved about, sparks flickered everywhere. Tung Xiao had not expected Xiaochen to fight him the moment he arrived. He smiled coldly, and a slender saber flickering with a cold light appeared in his hand. Dang! Tung Xiaochen gently swung and blocked Xiaochen's saber. Then, he quickly spun around in the air, and gave off electric light, dissipating the force in Xiaochen's saber. Xiaochen's eyes lit up. This mysterious person who resembled the Qing Emperor was not very strong. However, his combat techniques were not something to be underestimated. The moment Xiaochen executed the starting stance, he completely accumulated the momentum of the lightning tribulation saber technique. The sparks behind him turned into many lightning flood dragons, circling around Xiaochen. Tung Xiao did not show any weakness. He shook his wrist, and black dragon images swam around behind him. As the two fought, Xiaochen had an overwhelming advantage in terms of cultivation. However, Tung Xiao relied on his combat experience and did not fall into a disadvantage. Unable to drag things out, Xiaochen decisively changed his move. He executed a blue dragon goes to sea and gathered a 3-kilometer-long dragon-shaped saber chi. Auspicious clouds surrounded the dragon as it roared ferociously. When Tung Xiao saw this move, his lips could not help but curl up. He smiled and said, "Blue dragon goes to sea, and you dare to use this move before me?" The tip of Tung Xiao's foot pushed against the void, and his body soared up. He stretched out his hand, wanting to grab the dragon's head. Tung Xiao pushed off and soared. Then he shot to the dragon head. However, Xiaochen already knew the weakness of this move, and had already made up for it. How could the other party succeed? Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and the somewhat rigid dragon-shaped saber chi seemed to come to life. It shook its head and wagged its tail, baring its fangs and claws. Tung Xiao was startled. Clearly, he He had not expected such a change. He could not figure out how to grab the dragon head. Without waiting for Teng Xiao to retreat, Xiao Chen shouted, and the dragon-shaped saber chi pressed down ruthlessly. Teng Xiao spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and was sent flying 10,000 meters in the void. After Teng Xiao stabilized himself, he laughed loudly, not caring about his injuries. He said loudly, "Good, good, good." Teng Xiao said good 3 times in a row. Then he continued, "Blue Dragon goes to sea, you really used this move beautifully. Indeed, you did not disappoint me. It is impolite not to reciprocate. Receive this move of mine as well. Blue Dragon goes to sea." Teng Xiao waved his right hand, and the saber appeared in his palm again. A boundless scarlet sea appeared behind him, filled with white bones and surging resentment. That was a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. A boundless dark aura lingered above the scarlet sea, looking strange and evil. Teng Xiao roared, and a black dragon soared up from the scarlet sea. Its eyes shone with a scarlet light, and its black scales layered over each other. Teng Xiao soared into the air and hacked down with his saber. The black dragon gathered on the saber, forming a strange dragon-shaped saber chi that surged towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen revealed a horrified expression. It was not because of the might of this move, but because this mysterious dark church cultivator really knew the dragon subduing slash. Xiao Chen pushed off the air and materialized the stance of soaring dragon, turning into a true dragon and soaring into the sky. Hidden dragon in the depths, soaring dragon in the sky. It was fine if it did not fly, but it soared into the sky. Bang, bang, bang. 3 crisp sounds rang out, and the evil black dragon was forcefully broken into 3 pieces by the stance of soaring dragon that Xiao Chen materialized. After breaking this move, Xiao Chen looked up and discovered that that person had already fled. The mysterious phenomenon of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood also vanished. The dark aura spreading in the sky slowly dissipated. However, the 3 pieces of the black dragon lingered in the air for a long time, as if they had already solidified. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. If this person had not been far weaker than him, this mutated blue dragon goes to sea would not have been easy to deal with. That person earlier seems to be the church master of the Dark Church. 10,000 years ago, he rampaged everywhere. He also contributed to the destruction of the Tianwu dynasty. Ao Jiao said slowly, her eyes filled with doubt. She continued, according to rumor, he was killed by the Holy Lord of the 3 Holy Masters' Holy Land. Why did he appear again today? Xiao Chen did not chase after this person. He felt that this person was just a clone and not the true body. Unexpectedly, there was such a horrifying enemy of unknown origins in the Sky Dome realm. No wonder Xiao Chen's father was so worried back then. If Xiao Chen succeeded in his tribulation, he had to uproot the Dark Church in the Sky Dome realm. The appearance of this mysterious person cast a shadow over Xiao Chen's heart. Not only was this person's appearance strange, but his identity was also suspicious. Why did this person appear in Mo City's Xiao clan? If his clone was already so strong, how strong would his true body be? Chu Chaoyan said that the Dark Church was connected to the Xiao clan. How did this person know? Many doubts appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. He turned his head to look at the bustling Xiao clan and the lively faces. Then, he cleared his mind of distracting thoughts and left with a resolute expression. Half a day later, Xiao Chen landed on a desolate island in the boundless sea. There were no humans or beasts on the island. It was a completely desolate island. Similar islands dotted the vast boundless sea like the stars in the sky. They were very ordinary and would not attract the attention of others when undergoing a tribulation. This was the best choice. There was a small mountain on the island. Xiao Chen jumped onto it and sat cross-legged at the summit. He looked up at the clear blue sky. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. A cool chill came from the sea monarch headscarf on his forehead, causing his entire body to calm down both inside and out. After spitting out a long breath of turbid qi, Xiao Chen closed his eyes and started to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation. The power of natural laws quickly circulated in his meridians. Not long after, a thunderous sound rang out in his body. Lightning flashed in the mysterious small world in his dantian. The blue dragon martial spirit swam around carefully, dodging the lightning. The dantian was the most mysterious place in a cultivator's body. It looked like a pearl, hanging between the belly button and the sternum. However, if one cut open the belly of a cultivator, one would not see the so-called dantian. The dantian was not an organ, bone, or flesh. It existed between reality and illusion. It was a world of its own, containing the cultivator's essence, quintessence, and heavenly sage laws. A cultivator used their body as a vessel. Actually, this referred to the space in the dantian. The size and toughness of this space determined how much quintessence and spiritual energy a cultivator could contain. The dantian was the cornerstone of this small world. If the dantian was destroyed, the small world would cease to exist. Naturally, the cultivator would be crippled. Rumor had it that once one reached the level of Emperor Wu, one would grasp heavenly laws and be compatible with the world. One could change this small world, materializing a world of mountains and rivers. At this moment, this small world was filled with lightning. The tiny blue dragon martial spirit dodged everywhere. However, it still found it hard to escape. Occasionally, it would get struck by lightning. Every time it struck, Xiaochen felt like he was experiencing it himself. Every cell in his body, his internal organs, his flowing blood, his tough bones, and his skin, endured the baptism of lightning. Even the depths of his soul were trembling, enduring great torment. There were no visible changes to Xiaochen's outer appearance. He sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, silently circulating the purple thunder divine incantation. However, his physical body and soul were suffering from both torment and boundless pain. Xiaochen's entire body felt like thousands of silver needles were stabbing him continuously. He clenched his teeth and endured. To him, who cultivated the physical body, such pain was not unbearable. However, the blue dragon martial spirit in Xiaochen's dantian became dispirited and listless. It looked like it would disappear at any moment. However, Xiaochen's heart was as clear as a mirror. Under the tempering of the lightning, the inner charm of the blue dragon martial spirit became even more spirited. It was filled with a divine nature, as if a true soul was condensed within it. The lightning tribulation of the martial spirit lasted for half a day before it finally stopped. Several sticky black impurities flowed out of Xiaochen's body. Xiaochen's heavenly sage laws shook the impurities off his body and scattered them with the wind. This martial spirit tribulation had been extremely arduous. However, Xiaochen had gained a lot as well. Using this opportunity, his peak rank 2 sage body finally broke through to rank 3 sage body. Xiaochen thought to himself, now that I'm at full power, I should be able to achieve 1,500 tons of force. That would be another breakthrough. Xiaochen's physical body's recovery ability and ability to resist attacks had also improved. Even without a cultivation technique or martial technique that specialized in protecting the body, Xiaochen's physical body was much stronger than before. Xiaochen's defense should have already reached the level of a Grandmaster-level martial sage. After all, a regular Grandmaster-level martial sage's physical body would barely reach the level of a rank 2 sage body. Xiaochen did not specialize in vital qi, so he could not compare to Xiaochen. However, Xiaochen did not know how his martial spirit was doing now. The blue dragon martial spirit in his dantian was now only a small spot of light. It was incredibly bright, but he could not sense it at all. Startling thunder roared by his ears. Xiaochen opened his eyes and looked at the sky. Boundless thunderclouds stretched for thousands of kilometers, churning and extremely heavy. The sky seemed to be several times lower than usual. With just a gentle leap, it would be within reach. Bolts of lightning tore through the sky, and thunder roared continuously. The seawater churned endlessly, kicking up huge waves. The entire island shook. The island was like a lone boat that had left the ground, bobbing up and down in the seawater. The wind and clouds moved and the sky changed color. Rivers and seas churned. Thunderclouds covered the ground, and a myriad of phenomena appeared. It was like a deity in the sky was glaring at Xiaochen. Chapter 865. At this moment, Xiaochen no longer needed to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation. It circulated through the meridians in his body, resonating with the changing sky. Xiaochen stood on a small mountain as the island rose and fell with the waves. His white robes fluttered as he looked at the boundless thunderclouds. His expression was grave and stern, his gaze emotionless. It was like he was not facing these lifeless thunderclouds, but a vast army pressing down on him. He was the last warrior in this lonely city. Wuxia. In the distant boundless sky, a bolt of lightning tore through space, heading for Xiaochen without any warning. It traveled 5,000 kilometers in an instant. Xiaochen drew the lunar shadow saber from its scabbard. His attack speed was even faster than the lightning. The cold saber blade silently chopped the lightning bolt flying at him in half. Come, Xiaochen said softly as he looked into the distance. He could feel the incarnation of the heavenly Tao in the thunderclouds. Right after Xiaochen spoke, 10,000 bolts of lightning flew over from the distance like arrows. Thunder roared, causing the seawater to surge. Bang! The island turned into a boat without roots. Together with the surging seawater, it floated up and down in the huge waves. The 10,000 arrows shot out at the same time. However, these were not arrows. They were all lightning bolts that could easily pierce through the sky. The overwhelming lightning engulfed the thunderclouds. When one looked up, it was filled with densely packed electricity. Xiaochen's face sank. He waved his hand, and the heavenly sage laws in his body surged. More than 100 lightning flood dragons instantly formed and danced around Xiaochen, encasing him and forming a special protective ring. Kasi. Intense collisions and explosions resounded. The 10,000 bolts of lightning pierced through the air as the lightning flood dragons fought with all their might. Occasionally, a bolt of lightning pierced through the ring of lightning flood dragons. However, Xiaochen brandished his saber and chopped them apart. In the end, the 100 lightning flood dragons did not last for long. The arrow-like lightning struck them until they were covered in cuts and bruises. It was a tragic sight to behold as they scattered one by one. Fortunately, not many of the 10,000 bolts of lightning remained. Xiaochen chopped down with all his might. Every time he hacked, some electricity would accumulate in his body. After a certain amount, when he chopped down the last bolt of lightning, it finally exploded in his body. Bang! The explosion knocked Xiaochen into the air. He vomited a mouthful of blood. And he immediately let go of the lunar shadow saber. Just after the first wave subsided, another wave arose. Suddenly, a golden divine lightning descended from above. Wherever it passed, the void was directly annihilated, disappearing into nothingness. Not even spatial fragments remained. This was the famous divine lightning of extinction. When Xiaochen saw this scene, he could not help cursing in his heart. The lightning tribulation of a cultivation technique actually caused even the divine lightning that a greater heavenly martial emperor needed to pass through. Although the divine lightning of nirvana before Xiaochen was not on the same level as the divine lightning of nirvana that martial emperors faced, it was the genuine divine lightning of nirvana. It could destroy space and swallow everything. Xiaochen raised his hands to the sky, and strands of purple heavenly sage laws poured out of his palms. A purple light as thick as a thumb intertwined. It formed an oval-shaped protective shield that flickered with dense lightning as it rose up. Crack! The divine thunder of annihilation lasted for 3 seconds. It easily broke through the protective shield and fell down. Xiaochen pushed off the ground with his feet, and all the vital qi in his body burned. A force of 150 jin surged out like a surging river and crashed into the lightning. With a loud boom, Xiaochen was ruthlessly struck down. His skin was charred black, and he was covered in cuts and bruises. He was in an extremely sorry state. Fortunately, the terrifying divine thunder of annihilation was also blasted into countless sparks under Xiaochen's berserk attack. This trial was temporarily over. The charred skin started to split open slowly, revealing smooth new skin. The regenerative ability of a level 3 saint body was on full display here. However, Xiaochen smiled bitterly. This new skin would definitely be very weak. The next bolt of lightning would cause even more pain. If this continued, when his skin and flesh recovered, he would be immediately charred. This cycle repeated itself. Just thinking about it made Xiaochen tremble in fear. What kind of horrifying pain would he suffer? Unfortunately, Xiaochen's guess was right. After that, there were all sorts of famous divine lightning. Golden light divine lightning, void divine lightning, immortal divine lightning, blood demon divine lightning, and sun extinguishing divine lightning. A total of 81 bolts of divine lightning descended one after another. Every time Xiaochen used his full power to block, his body would be blasted into a bloody mess. Then the rank 3 saint body would recover before being blasted into smithereens. Xiaochen did not even have a chance to cry out in pain before his willpower crumbled. The island had long since been blasted into nothingness. Xiaochen floated on the sea. The Neptune headscarf on his forehead gave him a cool feeling. He carefully opened his eyes and looked at the clear blue sky. The sunlight was so piercing that it hurt his eyes. Xiaochen asked doubtfully, "The lightning tribulation is over?" Xiaochen got up and sat on the surface of the sea. Then he stretched out his hand to take a look. His badly mangled skin had already slowly healed. Xiaochen's strong physical body had a strong recovery ability, automatically healing from the inside out. Soon he had completely recovered. The sunlight in the sky was somewhat piercing, and the seawater was calm. Xiaochen looked around and muttered, "The lightning tribulation is over. Next is the heart tribulation." Ao Jiao giggled from the immortal spirit ring and flew out. When she stood on the sea, she looked at Xiaochen and said, "Congratulations. Congratulations. You survived 81 bolts of lightning tribulation." As an item spirit, Ao Jiao feared this kind of lightning the most. She would not come out unless the lightning tribulation was over. Xiaochen relaxed slightly. He smiled and said, "Ao Jiao, I'm not dead. You cleared 81 bolts of lightning tribulation. You will definitely clear the heart tribulation as well. You will not die. You will be fine forever." Ao Jiao revealed a rare, gentle smile as she cheered Xiaochen on. Xiaochen said gently, "I will not die. I still have not fulfilled the promise I made to you. How can I die? Sooner or later, I will have to go to the eternal heavenly sword school." The expression in Xiaochen's eyes became even more resolute. No matter how difficult the heart tribulation was, Xiaochen would clear it. Xiaochen carried too much. Be it the favor that the Thunder King had given him, the destruction of the Dragon's Gate, or the Tao in his heart, they were all very far away. Back then, the Qing Emperor had been unrivaled in the 4 seas and 8 desolate lands. Surrounded by countless halos, Xiaochen had to carve out his own path and shake off the legend of the Qing Emperor. Xiaochen was not the Qing Emperor, or the Thunder King. He was Xiaochen. He had his own pride. The heart tribulation was the invasion of a heart demon. If one's mental state was not perfect enough, one would never be able to walk out of the illusion created by the heart demon, trapped until death. Xiaochen scooped up some seawater and washed his face. The heart demon was good at silently invading when a cultivator was defenseless and weak-willed. From now on, he had to deal with it comprehensively and could not be careless. Xiaochen sat on the surface of the sea, calmly waiting for the attack of the heart demon. As long as he cleared this hurdle, the sky and the sea would be vast and the birds could fly freely. After that, the great Tao would be bright. The new changes of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer would unveil its mysterious veil. "Come on," Xiaochen revealed a resolute expression. "Let me see where the flaw in my heart is. I really don't believe that this heart demon of yours can prevent me from walking out." Amidst the calm, Xiaochen paid full attention, not daring to relax for even a moment. After a while, the surroundings were still incredibly quiet. Xiaochen could not help but suspect that the so-called heart tribulation was just a lie. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's records were wrong. Otherwise, why had the heart tribulation not arrived yet? Suddenly, Xiaochen's expression changed drastically. When he opened his eyes, the thunder clouds in the sky had vanished, and the lightning tribulation had vanished. The question was, when did I close my eyes? Xiaochen did his best to recall. However, he could not remember when he closed his eyes. When he tried to recall, the divine lightning struck down in his mind, splitting his flesh, shattering his bones, and mangling his flesh. Furthermore, with his strong physical body, his body quickly recovered, and he repeated this inhumane torture. How could I have fainted under such torturous torment? It was a never-ending cycle. Under such circumstances, Falling asleep was clearly an extravagant hope. Unless I died, the pain would not allow me to fall asleep. 81 bolts of divine lightning tribulation. Did I really clear all of them? Xiaochen paled. He suddenly stood up and broke out in a cold sweat. No matter how strong one's will was, one would not be able to endure such torment. What would happen if one's will weakened? The answer went without saying. Naturally, it would be a heart demon. What about the Ao Jiao from before? Naturally, it was a heart demon. Good. 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 I, Xiaochen, have always thought of myself as extremely intelligent, with an extraordinary will and a perfect mental state. Unexpectedly, I nearly killed myself. Xiaochen revealed a self-mocking expression. He smiled bitterly. He was still foolishly waiting for the heart tribulation. How could he not know that he was already trapped in an illusion? As Xiaochen thought this, the sky and seawater before him slowly turned blurry. Then he said calmly, Ao Jiao, are you not coming out for a while? Ao Jiao flew out from the immortal spirit ring. Her face filled with confusion. She even complained. Why are you not focusing on your heart tribulation? Why did you call me out? Xiaochen stretched out his hand, and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his palm. As he looked at the familiar girl before him, he did not say anything. A saber light flashed, and Ao Jiao's head and body separated. Xiaochen attacked decisively, showing no mercy. The scene around him suddenly changed. Xiaochen's consciousness slowly turned blurry. Thunder rumbled endlessly. The seawater was boundless. Huge waves drifted down, and rain poured endlessly. Thunderclouds churned in the sky, and lightning tore through the dark space. It looked like the end of the world. Xiaochen lay in the seawater, moving up and down with the waves. His body was badly mutilated, and his eyes glazed over. The intense pain made his body twitch continuously. The lightning struck too quickly. The recovery of his rank 3 sage body could not keep up. The wounds at the corners of his eyes mixed with seawater, preventing him from even opening them. Every slight movement caused heart-wrenching pain. Xiaochen had a bad feeling in his heart. Ignoring the intense pain, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked up. Chapter 866. In the hazy scene, a girl stretched out her hand to block a black ball of lightning, doing her best to prevent it from falling. Bits of life essence scattered from her petite body, looking like fireworks blooming in this dark space. Very beautiful. No, Xiaochen felt like he had fallen into a deep abyss. He cried out hoarsely as he did his best to stand up on the sea. At this moment, he finally understood that he had not cleared all 81 bolts of lightning. Not only had he not cleared all of them, but before the final bolt of lightning arrived, a flaw appeared in his will, and the heart demon took advantage of it. Ao Jiao turned her head around and did her best to squeeze out a smile on her pale, bloodless face. Then she mocked Xiaochen as usual. Haha. Idiot master, to think that you thought you were very smart. In the end, the heart demon took advantage of you. In the end, you still have to rely on me. Right after Xiaochen spoke, the light on his body completely vanished. Motes of light filled the sky and slowly drifted down. With Ao Jiao draining her life essence as the price, the final bolt of lightning, which should have been boundlessly mighty, was now at least 10 times smaller than before, no longer able to do anything. Xiaochen's face was ashen. His eyes were blank as he allowed the lightning ball, which was several times smaller, to land on him. Ao Jiao, I will come back alive, right? You have to. Even if you want to die, I will not let you die. You are not allowed to die, and you will not die. Boom. When the bolt of lightning landed, Xiaochen's body, which had just recovered a little, got blasted into a mangled mess again. Intense pain assaulted him. However, Xiaochen was numb, unable to feel anything as he stretched out his hand and looked at the sky. The surging waves slowly calmed down. The thunderclouds scattered, and sunlight shone on the surface of the sea. After clearing all 81 bolts of lightning, Xiaochen's bitterness was over, and his rank 3 sage body advanced further, reaching the peak. A vigorous life force poured out endlessly from the depths of his body. His injuries healed at a visible rate. However, Xiaochen's heart was deathly still. His eyes were filled with boundless regret. His mind was filled with bits and pieces of his time with Ao Jiao. Now that I have drawn the mulberry sword, shouldn't you be calling me master? Idiot, have you ever seen an ant make an elephant call it master? Idiot master, I did not expect that one day, you would also become the top genius of the true dragon ranking. Haha, you are the same as the Thunder Emperor back then. Xiao Chen, you are not even 25 years old yet, and you already comprehended the immortal will of thunder. You already surpassed the Thunder Emperor. You will not die. Even if you want to die, I will not let you die. Hehe, don't forget that you promised me to avenge the Thunder Emperor. Under the illumination of the sun, the specks of light had long since disappeared without a trace. Hehe, congratulations, congratulations, idiot master. You've passed all 81 lightning tribulations. Suddenly a familiar voice rang out. Xiao Chen turned his head and looked. He saw Ao Jiao smiling faintly, looking at him warmly. Boundless hatred appeared in the depths of Xiao Chen's eyes. However, his lips curled up slightly as he said, I have never had a moment where I wanted to lie to myself that you are the real one. A saber light flickered as Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber. It looked like the heart demon, Ao Jiao, would be chopped in half. However, at the last moment, the cold saber suddenly stopped before Xiao Chen's neck. Xiao Chen knew that this was a tribulation, but why did this saber not chop down? At some point in time, a tear appeared in the corner of Xiao Chen's eye. When the tears fell from the corners of Xiao Chen's eyes, the grief in them turned into a cold light. The saber light turned, and the cold and slender lunar shadow saber finally swung at the heart demon, Ao Jiao. Heart tribulations. Now Xiao Chen finally understood what it meant. A human's heart could not be perfect forever. There would always be a flaw. No matter how perfect one's mental state was, it would not work. The human heart was unfathomable. In the end, a human heart was made of flesh. It was laughable that Xiao Chen was so confident. Furthermore, the heart demon would always find the flaw in Xiao Chen's heart at the most appropriate time. When Xiao Chen was tortured by the lightning tribulation, his greatest wish was naturally to break free from the lightning tribulation. Hence, the heart demon instantly found a flaw. Since that was what Xiao Chen wanted, he naturally lowered his guard. When Ao Jiao died for him, Ao Jiao became the biggest knot in Xiao Chen's heart. Once again, the heart demon took advantage of this flaw, betting that Xiao Chen could not bear to kill her. Kasie. Xiao Chen chopped the heart demon in front of him in half with his saber again. His consciousness turned blurry. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and looked down. That tear from earlier just happened to fall on the surface of the sea. Ripples spread out on the surface of the sea. Xiao Chen's reflection in the water looked blurry. Xiao Chen had already cleared the lightning tribulation and the heart tribulation. He had officially reached the 7th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. However, Xiao Chen did not feel any joy. He did not check on the changes that the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation brought to his body. Xiao Chen's body fell straight towards the surface of the water. Plop. He lay there, creating a large splash. He did not think of anything, not at all. Xiao Chen hugged the lunar shadow saber and closed his eyes tightly. Will I be able to return alive? You have to. Even if you want to die, I will not let you die. Hehe. Don't forget that you promised me to take revenge for the Thunder King. You are not allowed to die. This conversation seemed to echo in Xiao Chen's ears. Without needing to think too much, the image of Ao Jiao clenching her fist and putting on a ferocious expression appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. As the water flowed, Xiao Chen closed his eyes, unwilling to open them. There are no miracles in this world. There is no way to reverse the situation. So I will close my eyes tightly. I only want to meet you in my dreams. I only hope that I do not wake up from this dream, that I will not be able to open my eyes for 10,000 years. The vast boundless sea was filled with boundless danger. Aside from danger, there were also boundless treasures. It would always attract a large number of cultivators to seek their own fortuitous encounters. Time went by. Xiao Chen hugged the lunar shadow saber and drifted on the surface of the sea for half a year without waking up. A special, gentle aura lingered on Xiao Chen's body. It was pure and filled with vast energy. As the aura spread out, it attracted several spirit beasts in the sea to follow. All of them greedily absorbed this aura. As Xiao Chen drifted on the surface of the sea, more and more spirit beasts followed him. There were deep-sea spirit turtles, black tuna whales, golden lantern fish and many others, forming an incredibly strange scene. On this particular day, a small boat carrying a few cultivators headed for the deep-sea battlefield. Big Brother Bai Lishi, quickly look. There seems to be a dead person there. A skinny cultivator on the bow of the boat exclaimed in shock. The few people who were drinking and chatting all looked over. After more than 2 years, Bai Lishi was no longer the same as before. His set of medial-grade secret treasures had all been replaced with superior-grade secret treasures. His cultivation had even reached peak inferior-grade martial monarch. He was only a step shy of advancing to medial-grade martial monarch. Furthermore, Bai Lishi had not exhausted his potential yet. His luck for the past 2 years was extraordinarily good. Others might not know the reason, but Bai Lishi was very clear on it. It was no doubt that Bai Lishi had made the right choice back then. He had indeed gotten some of Xiao Chen's luck. Clearly, Bai Lishi was the leader of the group on the boat. His lips twitched as he took a big gulp of wine. Then he scolded jokingly, "How ignorant. It is just a dead person. There are many dead people in the boundless sea. No, look behind him. There are many deep-sea spirit beasts following him. Unexpectedly, those spirit beasts are not eating him. That is too strange," the skinny cultivator with sharp eyes argued. When Bai Lishi heard this, his expression changed slightly. He looked over as well, and saw a large group of deep-sea spirit beasts following the corpse. He found it very strange as well. "Go and take a look. Chase away those fish. There is something strange about this corpse," Bai Lishi instructed as he felt excited. That skinny cultivator immediately flew over in glee. Soon he returned with Xiao Chen's body. Then he casually tossed Xiao Chen's body onto the deck. "Good saber. I want it." When a martial king who used a saber saw the lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's hand, his eyes lit up. He immediately rushed forward, wanting to pry the lunar shadow saber from Xiao Chen's hand. In the end, no matter how hard that martial king tried, even using his essence, he could not pry Xiao Chen's hand off. He was so anxious that his face turned red, but it was to no avail. "Sixth brother, did you use up all your strength on women? You can't even do anything to a dead person." The others could not help but laugh loudly. That sixth brother was already very angry in the first place. When he saw the others laughing at him, he drew his weapon and said angrily, "Damn it! He is already dead. Yet you are still holding on so tightly. I have never seen such a stingy person. This old man will chop off your entire arm." When Bai Lishi saw sixth brother raise his saber, he felt that this person looked familiar. He shouted, "Wait a moment. Don't move." Bai Lishi quickly stepped forward and brushed aside the messy hair on Xiao Chen's face. This confirmed his guess. Bai Lishi's expression changed greatly as he said, "Brother Xiao Chen." The cultivator that Bai Lishi grabbed thought that Bai Lishi wanted to snatch the saber from him. He said in dissatisfaction, "Big brother, since when did you have such a dead brother?" "Scram. Your brother is the dead one. Your entire family is dead. This is my old man's brother, Xiao Chen." Bai Lishi stepped forward and checked Xiao Chen's breathing. He discovered that he was still breathing. When he looked at his skin color, there were no signs of swelling. It was like Xiao Chen had just fallen asleep. Bai Lishi heaved a sigh of relief and started cursing at that person. When the others heard what Bai Lishi said, they all gathered around curiously. They looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Big brother, is this really Xiao Chen?" Bai Lishi's lips curled up as he said, "How can my words be false? He is Xiao Chen. He is the top sovereign genius of the True Dragon realm. He returned to the Sky Dome realm half a year ago and killed Sima Hong with one finger. He even took away the will of thunder that no one has taken away in the past few thousand years." Bai Lishi raised his head and glared at the cultivator who was about to cut off Xiao Chen's arm. He said, "Consider yourself lucky. If I had not shouted for you to stop, even if you had 9 lives, you would not be able to survive." The cultivator holding the saber was startled. Xiao Chen was a true legend of the Sky Dome realm. Xiao Chen's experiences surpassed even that of the Thunder King, who had risen up like a comet. When everyone carefully sized up Xiao Chen, they could not believe it. Unexpectedly, such a legendary person was on the same ship as them. Big brother, is he really your brother? Why does he look different to me? The skinny cultivator and the other cultivators did not believe that Bai Lishi and Xiao Chun were as close as he said. Bai Lishi could not be bothered with them. He frowned slightly, unable to understand Xiao Chun's current situation. Chapter 867. Based on Xiao Chun's clothes, he had clearly soaked in the sea for a long time. However, his skin and complexion were much better than Bai Lishi's. It was as if he had just fallen asleep. It was an extremely contradictory sight. Logically speaking, with Xiao Chun's strength, he should have woken up from such a commotion. Why was his eyes still closed? Bai Lishi did not dare to act rashly. He did not know what his brother was doing. After thinking for a while, he said, "Turn around. Let's go to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and send him back." Big brother, we have wasted so much time. Are we not going to the deep-sea battlefield? Bai Lishi scolded. Idiot. If my brother wakes up, he will give you some benefits. It will be enough for you to stay in the deep-sea battlefield for 100 years. The others felt that this was reasonable. They immediately turned around happily and headed for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Suddenly, the skinny cultivator with sharp eyes said, "Did you all notice that there is a special aura coming from Xiao Chun's body? I just absorbed some of it, and my mental energy increased significantly." The others did not believe it. After they tested it out, they all opened their eyes in shock. They all exclaimed that their mental energy had indeed increased significantly. Bai Lishi remained silent. When he saw the lifeless expression on Xiao Chun's face, he did not know why, but he felt like his heart had died. As a result, when these people discovered this, they did not pay much attention to it. Could it be that brother Xiao Chun is not going to wake up? This thought appeared in Bai Lishi's mind. The other cultivators on the ship were rather happy when they turned around. After more than a month, Xiao Chun's mental energy had increased significantly. However, the special energy that Xiao Chun gave off showed no signs of dissipating. Aside from the deity race, who had a good chance of cultivating mental energy, due to their innate talent, even the other races of the Kunlun realm would find it difficult to obtain cultivation techniques for cultivating mental energy. Only Bai Lishi frowned. 1 month had passed, and it was as Bai Lishi had guessed. Xiao Chun had not woken up yet. Bai Lishi grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly with both hands and fell into a deep sleep, unwilling to wake up. Big brother, we are almost at Thunder King Valley, the skinny cultivator said with a smile on his face as he pointed to the canyon in front. Bai Lishi looked up and saw that they were indeed almost at Thunder King Valley. He muttered, "Without that immortal will of thunder, I am not used to walking in this Thunder Emperor Valley." The small boat moved slowly, calmly sailing through the canyon. The two sides of the canyon still had the mural of the Thunder King soaring into the sky. Xiao Chun, who was on the deck, suddenly moved. When Bai Lishi saw this, he thought he was seeing things. He rubbed his eyes and discovered that Xiao Chun had already opened his eyes. The sharpness in his eyes was unrestrained and unparalleled. However, in the deepest part of his eyes, there was a sense of vicissitudes and silence that no one could capture. Xiao Chun's eyes were full of sharpness. Xiao Chun's eyes. Xiao Dragon Chun Xiao Chun stood. Standing. On Xiao Xiao Li Shi Si. And in went. On. Xiao Chun lay on the deck and muttered, "Thunder King Valley. Thunder King Valley. Why did you wake me up here?" When the others on the warship saw Xiao Chun stand up, they silently felt an immense pressure. They felt like even speaking was strenuous. "Brother Xiao Chun, are you all right?" Bai Lishi asked joyfully when he saw that Xiao Chun had woken up. "Brother Xiao Chun, are you all right?" Bai Lishi asked joyfully when he saw that Xiao Chun had woken up. Xiao Chun did not explain. He asked, "Brother Bai Lishi, do you have wine?" The two drank and chatted for a long time. When Xiao Chun found out that he had been asleep for half a year, he could not help but remain silent for a long time. When the ship was about to leave the valley, Xiao Chun returned the wine bottle to Bai Lishi and thanked him. Then he flew up to Thunder King Valley without saying a word. Xiao Chun stood quietly in Thunder Emperor Valley and looked at the distant sky. His thoughts wandered along with the strong wind. After a long time, he took out the lunar shadow saber from the universe ring. Xiaochen drew the saber from its scabbard with a huangdang sound. The cold and slender saber blade was as sharp as before. Xiaochen touched the saber blade with his finger and gently sliced it. Blood immediately flowed onto the saber blade. Without waiting for the blood to drip, Xiaochen sheathed the saber and smashed it with his palm. The lunar shadow saber instantly entered Thunder King Valley. There was a pitch-black hole in the ground. It was unknown how deep the lunar shadow saber was. Xiaochen knelt on the ground and pressed his forehead against the hard mountain rock. Blood flowed out and dyed the white Neptune headscarf red. If I cannot bring Ao Jiao back, then I, Xiaochen, will never use a second saber in this life. The mysterious and strong talisman in misleading fog lake had allowed Xiaochen to see the pinnacle of power. When one's strength reached its peak, there might be a miracle. Big brother, what is that Xiaochen doing? The small boat sailed out of the valley but did not go far. When the group saw Xiaochen kneeling on the ground, they could not understand what was going on. Bai Lishi sighed silently. This brother of his had probably met with a hurdle. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go. There are some things that we cannot understand." After staying in Thunder Emperor Valley for 3 days, Xiaochen sank down and started to check the changes that the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer brought him. First was his Sea of Consciousness. The mental energy in his Sea of Consciousness had actually all turned into magic energy. Furthermore, without Xiaochen intentionally controlling it, it all spread out. When Xiaochen saw the vast and flourishing magic energy, he could not help but sigh. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer had indeed brought him an immortal opportunity. In the distant Penglai Sea of the Kunlun realm, there were immortal cultivators as well. However, as far as Xiaochen knew, immortal cultivators could not cultivate. He had never heard of a martial cultivator being able to cultivate immortal cultivation. Not just anyone could cultivate immortal cultivation. One needed to have an ethereal immortal opportunity. Otherwise, no matter how talented one was, one would not be able to enter the door. In the current martial epoch, there were very few people with an immortal opportunity. Only in the Penglai Sea did some immortal cultivators gather. These immortal cultivators did not have any connection to the people of the immortal epoch. They were established by the later generations after obtaining some inheritances. The strength of immortal cultivators was like mud to clouds when compared to the true experts of the immortal epoch. After checking again, Xiaochen discovered that his heavenly sage laws had not decreased or disappeared. The energy of a cultivator still existed. Furthermore, they had become even purer and denser. Each of the 300 heavenly sage laws had become 3 times thicker, as thick as a baby's arm. A peak inferior grade martial sage could have 500 heavenly sage laws. Although Xiaochen's cultivation had not changed, even an ordinary superior grade martial sage in the Kunlun realm would not be able to compare to his. In terms of the might of heavenly sage laws, they would not be able to compare to Xiaochen's. Immortal dual cultivation and martial cultivation. Suddenly, these words appeared in Xiaochen's mind. The purpose of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation was probably to dual cultivate immortal dual cultivation and martial cultivation. The immortal arts recorded in the Compendium of Cultivation were too low-ranked. Compared to the martial techniques of the Kunlun realm, they were much weaker. They were all basic knowledge. Only this Purple Thunder Divine Incantation far surpassed some heaven-ranked cultivation techniques. Now that it had broken through to the 7th layer, it would not be an exaggeration to say that it was earth-shattering. Who exactly created the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation? Given Xiaochen's current knowledge, it would be impossible for the experts of the immortal epoch or the martial epoch to come up with such a martial technique. Only someone who had studied both immortal arts and the martial Tao, as well as familiarity with the physique of the Kunlun realm's cultivators, could create such a Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. The strength of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation went without a doubt. Now, Xiaochen truly understood the dangers of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. The Purple Thunder Talisman in Xiaochen's Sea of Consciousness spun gently. Under his control, the scattered magic energy stopped leaking. Xiaochen sank his consciousness into his dantian, wanting to see what the Blue Dragon martial spirit which had been baptized by countless bolts of lightning, looked like now. If Xiao Chun had not seen it, he would not have known. However, when he saw it, he was startled. The tiny blue dragon had already reformed. However, Xiao Chun felt that it was very different from the martial spirit. In the past, the blue dragon martial spirit was a dragon-shaped energy that could not be controlled easily. Now this blue dragon gave Xiao Chun the feeling that it was his clone. Furthermore, it was very chubby like a baby. Not only could it control its every move, but it also possessed great energy. Furthermore, its connection to Xiao Chun was even closer. If this blue dragon got destroyed now, it would not be as simple as before. Xiao Chun would die as well. Xiao Chun was somewhat shocked as he asked, "What is this? Yuanying? Or is it a dragon nascent soul?" Clearly, this tiny blue dragon, according to the introduction in the Compendium of Cultivation, had the characteristics of a Yuanying. However, wasn't the Yuanying of immortal cultivators always their own? After trying to circulate it, Xiao Chun discovered that this blue dragon was indeed his Yuanying. For now, he could just treat it as the result of dual immortal cultivation and martial cultivation. Since there were no major problems, Xiao Chun just let it be. A fierce flame started burning intensely in his right eye. With a thought from Xiao Chun, the purple thunder true fire immediately spewed out. The purple lightning attributed fire covered the sky and landed on the surface of the sea. Chi. In that instant, boundless hot steam rose up from the surface of the sea. In an instant, it enveloped the surrounding 50 kilometers. White mist filled the air. Much of the seawater had evaporated. A huge pit appeared on the flat surface of the sea. The seawater from all directions gathered and formed an incomparably huge whirlpool spinning wildly. Xiao Chun withdrew the purple thunder true fire and returned it to his eye. When he saw the scene before him, he was somewhat astonished. The purple thunder true fire brought about by the purple thunder divine incantation's 7th layer was this purple thunder true fire. Now the purple thunder true fire was Xiao Chun's true weapon. In the Kunlun realm, he could definitely compete with the outstanding talents of the same generation. However, there was an imbalance between yin and yang. It would not be easy to form the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram. Xiao Chun had to find more yin-attributed flames for the lunar true flame to absorb. Rebirth. At this moment, Xiao Chun could only use this phrase to describe him. He would be walking a path that no one before him would be able to follow in the future. After a long time, Xiao Chun calmed down. A jade strip appeared in his hand. This was the magic skill that he obtained with the golden crow egg in the Sky Dome Immortal Realm, Starry Heaven Storm. In the past, he did not have magic energy and could not practice this strong magic skill. He could only look at it. Now it suited Xiao Chun. Chapter 868. Although there were many immortal arts in the Compendium of Cultivation, they were all immortal arts that were not worth mentioning in the Kunlun realm. Before strong martial techniques, they were not worth mentioning at all. Only magic skills were truly strong immortal arts. Magic skills were divided into minor magic skills, major magic skills, and supreme magic skills. In the current cultivation world of the Prunglai Sea, the various immortal Dao sects did not have many minor magic skills. Major magic skills were even rarer. As for supreme magic skills, they would be in the single digits. Starry Heaven Storm was a peak minor magic skill. Although it was a minor magic skill, its might was stronger than a regular heaven-ranked martial technique. Furthermore, when cultivated to a certain level, it could even transform into a major magic skill. Xiao Chun carefully studied the key points of executing Starry Heaven Storm once more. Then, he closed his eyes and carefully pondered, simulating the execution of this magic skill in his mind. After a while, Xiao Chun opened his eyes and formed hand seals, forming different hand seals. The magic energy in his sea of consciousness drained quickly. Due to the complicated environment of the universe, there were many stars. There were bound to be some stars that left their orbits due to various accidents. One must know that the orbit of every star was arranged by the heavenly Tao from the moment it was born. Although the universe was vast, in the eyes of the supreme heavenly Tao, it was just like a chessboard. As it moved, the lines of time and space intersected, binding all the stars to the chessboard of fate. If a star suddenly left its orbit, It would disrupt the lines of time and space and the arrangement of fate, resulting in a huge destructive force. This destructive force was known as Starry Heaven Storm. When a Starry Heaven Storm appeared, everywhere it passed, countless stars would be destroyed. Furthermore, it could stretch for hundreds of millions of kilometers. The magic skill Starry Heaven Storm in the Jade Strip simulated the instant a star left the chessboard of fate, the destructive force it produced. As Xiao Chen's hand seals increased in speed, intersecting lines of time and space appeared behind him. The chessboard of fate materialized. The stars on the chessboard moved in an orderly fashion. It looked like a vast galaxy, exactly like the boundless starry heavens of the Kunlun realm. Xiao Chen's expression turned anxious. He sent his spiritual sense into the vast star chart, quickly searching for a target. I can't. This star is too big. I can't move it. I can't move this one either. This one is just the right size, it's just enough to move. That's not right. This star is too far away. After pushing it, the resulting storm can't descend. Bang! An intense explosion sounded out, and the vast star river diagram behind him shattered into pieces. Xiao Chen coughed up a mouthful of blood. The execution of his mystic art had failed, and he suffered a backlash. The sound of a golden bell resounded in his mind, causing him to feel dizzy and unable to stand stably. Cultivating a divine ability was much more difficult than he had imagined, but Xiao Chen wasn't surprised. He sat down cross-legged and rested for a quarter of an hour before starting his second attempt. After 10 attempts, Xiao Chen finally succeeded in moving a star. The space-time lines on the chessboard of fate began to fluctuate violently. A starry sky storm appeared in an instant. As Xiao Chen stretched out his hand, the black gale rushed towards the sea in front of him. When the wind was strong to the extreme, what would it be like? The seawater was silently blown away by the starry sky storm, directly vaporizing. The seawater, which was several kilometers deep, immediately bottomed out. A 100-meter-wide trench appeared on the surface of the sea. On the flat surface of the sea, a large blank space appeared out of nowhere. It was divided into two halves. In the next moment, the seawater merged back together, and huge waves surged up ferociously. The entire sea turned chaotic, looking even scarier than an approaching storm. A trace of joy appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. He revealed a faint smile and said somewhat habitually, "Ao Jiao, how is the might of this minor magic skill?" Right after Xiao Chen spoke, he was stunned. His expression immediately turned gloomy. He looked at the empty immortal spirit ring with his spiritual sense, and the joy in his eyes slowly faded. When some people were around, you became used to them, feeling that they did not exist. Only when they were gone would you treasure them. With a flip of Xiao Chen's hand, a broken saber flew out of the immortal spirit ring. This was the other piece of the Thunder King's mulberry sword. As Xiao Chen grasped the broken saber tightly, a determined look flashed in his eyes. The immortal epoch had existed for tens of thousands of years longer than the martial epoch. Xiao Chen was sure that he could find a supreme magic skill that could reverse space-time and summon Ao Jiao back through the river of fate. The broken saber in Xiao Chen's hand still had some of Ao Jiao's mark. As long as the broken saber was still, there was hope. If he worked hard, a miracle would happen. After giving the Thunder Emperor Valley a deep look, an electric light flashed under Xiao Chen's feet. He tore space and headed back to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. When Lu Ruyue and the others saw Xiao Chen return to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion after half a year, they all heaved a sigh of relief. After losing Ao Jiao, Xiao Chen treasured the people around him. He did not want the tragedy to repeat itself. For the sake of bringing Ao Jiao back earlier, he cultivated even harder. 10 days later, Xiao Chen, who was more familiar with his strength, arrived at the Sky Dome Immortal Realm once again. After fighting with that Grandmaster-level martial sage ferocious beast for a long time, Xiao Chen successfully entered the pavilion in the middle of the Immortal Lake. The pavilion did not disappoint Xiao Chen. There was a jade strip containing a minor magic skill. After seeing the horrifying might of the Starry Heaven Storm, Xiao Chen finally understood how precious a minor magic skill was. There were thousands of magic techniques in the Compendium of Cultivation, but there was not a single magic skill. All of them added together were not as precious as the starry heaven storm. The new magic skill in the Jade Strip was called the Great Sun Incantation. The Great Sun Incantation. If one successfully executed it, one would be able to speak the incantation. Every word would contain the might of the blazing sun. When the incantation fell, it would be like the sun falling to the ground. The introduction in the Jade Strip was as exaggerated as the starry heaven storm. In order to achieve such might, one would need to be an immortal lord. It was just like the starry heaven storm. Even with Xiao Chen's strength, he could only break the sea. It was far from being able to destroy a star. However, with his improvement in cultivation, Xiao Chen was confident that he could use this starry heaven storm in the starry heavens of the Kunlun realm to push a star and create a real starry heaven storm. After leaving the pavilion, Xiao Chen searched the Sky Dome Immortal Realm for a long time with the mindset of giving it a try. However, after he found nothing, he left resentfully. After obtaining another minor magic skill, Xiao Chen returned to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and entered into closed-door cultivation. Xiao Chen did not have any foundation in immortal cultivation. With such vast magic energy, he was like a beggar who suddenly became a nouveau riche. Just because he wore gold and silver, he thought that he was rich and had no accumulations. Xiao Chen estimated that he would have to spend at least a year before he could reach the level of his current immortal cultivation. Only then would he be able to execute the magic skill with ease and not have any chance of failure. If the consequences of failing to execute a magic skill happened in battle, no one would be able to bear it. Xiao Chen was not someone who could not endure loneliness. After thinking for a while, he decided to enter closed-door cultivation for 1.5 years. That way, he would be more at ease. However, this way his cultivation would stagnate. For about 2 years, the gap between him and the giants and geniuses of the Kunlun realm would widen. However, Xiao Chen did not fear this. He needed to have his own accumulations for immortal cultivation, so he had to study it properly. Furthermore, the combination of immortal cultivation and martial cultivation was also a great field of study. If not for the fact that some things could only be verified through a large number of actual combat, Xiao Chen would not find it too much to enter closed-door cultivation for 5 years. Time flew, and the time for the demonic god blood sacrifice approached. The entire Kunlun realm felt a huge pressure. Under this pressure came all sorts of chaos. Amid the chaos, new outstanding talents relied on fortuitous encounters to rise up like comets. There were also races that vanished since ancient times, wanting to take advantage of the chaos to gain a firm foothold in the Kunlun continent. The small frictions between the 5 clans also became more and more intense. Everyone wanted to obtain more resources, so that they would have more confidence to face the demon god blood sacrifice that was about to come. The peak characters of the various races also ignored the chaos, treating it as a rehearsal for the demonic god blood sacrifice. This made the chaos even more chaotic. Naturally, Xiao Chen, who was in closed-door cultivation in the Sky Dome realm, did not know about all this. Xiao Chen, who had faced off against Di Wuk in a high-profile manner at the Sage Mark Monument, was slowly forgotten. In this age, there were many outstanding talents. If one did not appear for 3 months, they would be replaced by someone new. After disappearing for half a year, and not seeing anyone in all sorts of lands of fortuitous encounters, people assumed that Xiao Chen had fallen for no reason. Naturally, after disappearing for so long, he was already forgotten. Many people said that Xiao Chen died trapped in the Sage Mark Monument, becoming the genius that died the most sullen death in history. 1.5 years passed in the blink of an eye. Then Xiao Chen slowly walked out of the cave where he was in closed-door cultivation. This place was an unremarkable desolate mountain in the Lingyun mountain range, one that few people visited. The spiritual energy in the surroundings was thin, and there were no spirit beasts or spirit plants. The desolate mountain was filled with strange rocks. With one glance, it seemed boundless. Scorching sunlight shone down from above. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. During the past 1.5 years, he had not been in closed-door cultivation, not leaving the cave. Occasionally, he would come out to test out his ideas. The collapsed mountains in front were the result of his tests in the past 1.5 years. Even though Xiao Chen had suppressed his cultivation on purpose, Using less than half his strength, the destructive power he caused in this sky dome realm was still too horrifying. Starry heaven storm. Xiaochen shouted and formed hand seals. In just a moment, he used his magic energy to simulate the chessboard of fate. The stars in the universe unfurled into a boundless star chart. Xiaochen's spiritual sense swam freely in this boundless star chart, searching for stars. Then he encased 3 stars and pushed them with all his might. Go. Xiaochen's expression turned solemn as he stretched out his hand. A black starry heaven storm surged out, tearing a pitch-black chasm in space, extending for 500 kilometers. When the shock wave landed, the various mountains became much shorter. Great Sun Incantation. Xiaochen's hands did not stop moving. His magic energy surged like a fierce fire, drawing on the immortal Tao laws. The blazing sun in the sky slowly dimmed. Chapter 869. At first, Xiaochen did not feel anything. However, after a while, the sunlight descending from the sky clearly dimmed, turning dark. The great sun incantation stirred up the solar true flame in the air, and gathered it into words. How mighty and wondrous was that! Only an immortal art or magic skill could do this. With Xiaochen's current cultivation, this was practically a miracle. Xiaochen opened his mouth and spat out the word yang, which meant yang for the sun. However, it was not written in simplified Chinese or in a script that Xiaochen was familiar with. Instead, it was written in a mysterious script. The golden bright, yang character gathered all the solar true flame that Xiaochen stirred up. When it landed on the ground, a golden flame spread out from the character. Instantly, the ground for 500 kilometers around was scorched. With a pu-chi sound, the ground was charred, turning bright red as if it had been exposed to the blazing sun for 100 years. Some of the weeds and small trees on the ground were immediately burned to ashes. Kasie, Kasie. Deep gullies spread out in the ground. In the blink of an eye, the land for 500 kilometers around collapsed. Although this was the sky dome realm, be it the spatial structure or the spiritual energy in the ground, they could not compare to the Kunlun realm. However, Xiaochen was very satisfied with the destructive power of the Great Sun Incantation. That was 30% comprehended. Although he wasn't as proficient in immortal arts and divine abilities as he wished, he wouldn't fail to cast them as easily as he did with martial skills. Xiaochen's greatest bitter cultivation over the past 1.5 years was not the improvement of his strength, but the stabilization of his mental state. Between the gains and losses, Xiaochen underwent a complete transformation. Now his mental state was as strong as those old monsters that had lived for hundreds of years. It is time to make a trip to the Dark Church. Xiaochen withdrew his technique and looked in the direction of the ancient desolate land as he spoke calmly. Since the appearance of that mysterious person from the Dark Church, he had been a thorn in Xiaochen's heart. He kept feeling that this person's origins were closely related to him. Xiao Xiong chasing him out of the clan might have something to do with the Dark Church as well. Now that Xiaochen was strong enough, he was confident that he could protect himself even if he faced the true body of that mysterious person. He would know what kind of dragon's pool and tiger's den the Nether sect was after he entered it. Half a day later, Xiaochen arrived at the Heavenly Extermination Lake. When he arrived above the island where the Dark Church was, he could not help feeling slightly stunned. When he scanned the island with his spiritual sense, he could not find anyone on it. With a trace of doubt, Xiaochen landed on the island and walked around the various buildings, bunkers, and secret rooms, feeling the lingering demonic qi in the air. Xiaochen verified that he had not come to the wrong place. This was the Dark Church's branch in the Sky Dome realm. However, for some reason, they suddenly withdrew. Where did he go? The abyssal demon world? Xiaochen scanned the island with his powerful spiritual sense. He did not let go of any place, searching for something that interested him. An altar on the island attracted his attention. With a flicker, Xiaochen arrived at the palace. A large number of prayer mats were placed neatly on the floor of the hall. There were 2 depressions on the prayer mats, which were obviously caused by kneeling for a long time. Above the prayer mats was the altar giving off a dense dark aura. Behind the altar was a shattered black statue. Xiaochen quickly stepped forward and arrived at the edge of the altar. When he looked down, he saw churning black smoke. There was a mysterious formation at the very bottom that had been destroyed as well. A cool breeze blew, and a nauseating bloody smell wafted out from the altar. Xiaochen frowned slightly. He did not know how many people had died in this altar for it to give off such a horrifying bloody smell. Even if there were not 1,000,000, there had to be at least 100,000. Xiaochen's gaze fell on the shattered black statue. With a thought, the heavenly sage laws in his body surged as he sent out a few strands of law energy. The broken pieces of the statue floated before his eyes. Xiaochen was an expert in this field. It was not difficult for him to restore thousands of pieces of the statue. As Xiaochen moved his hands, the pieces quickly reassembled under his control. In mere moments, a complete statue appeared before Xiaochen. The statue was 3 meters tall and completely black. It wore ancient clothes, and its eyes were scarlet. It gave off an indescribably strong aura. It was as vast as the starry sky and as long as a river. A strange scene appeared before Xiaochen's eyes. He seemed to hear millions of spirits prostrating themselves in worship and singing praises. A formless and mysterious energy gathered towards the statue. These spirits all looked the same, expressionless and numb. The statue seemed to come to life, opening its mouth and sucking in, swallowing up millions of spirits. Not only did the spirits not show pain, but they also showed joy and transcendence. Bang! The reassembled statue immediately shattered, turning into powder and unable to reassemble itself. The scene before Xiaochen also vanished. This scene shocked Xiaochen on the spot, unable to recover his wits for a long time. Is this the mysterious demonic god of the deep abyss demonic world? Why do I feel like it's a forbidden technique of the demonic cultivators during the cultivation epoch? After cultivating immortal techniques, and rereading some of the foundational knowledge in the Compendium of Cultivation, Xiaochen could tell that this was an extremely cruel cultivation technique that went against the heavenly Tao. This was a forbidden ability of the demonic cultivators of the evil faction. The Compendium of Cultivation only recorded the cultivation techniques of the righteous Tao. There were very few records of this type of demonic cultivator. Xiaochen now understood why the deep abyss demonic world had to carry out the demonic god blood sacrifice every few thousand years to massacre the life forms of the Kunlun realm. The origins of the dark church in the deep abyss demonic world were definitely related to some demonic cultivators of the immortal epoch. However, Xiaochen did not know why the demons were willing to make such a huge sacrifice to invade the Kunlun realm for him. The Kunlun realm was not a pushover. Although the invasion of the 18 demon monarchs caused huge losses to the Kunlun realm, it would not have a good ending, either. In less than 8 years, or perhaps even earlier, the demonic god blood sacrifice will arrive. It is time for me to return as well. Xiaochen flew out of the island and paused in the air for a while. Then he spat out one word, and the sky suddenly turned much darker. The mysterious Yang character descended. This time, Xiaochen did not hold back. He used 80% of his power. Bang! The island hundreds of kilometers around instantly crumbled, turning into ashes and disappearing into the heavenly extermination lake. As Xiaochen looked at the island that no longer existed, he revealed a satisfied expression. After returning to the heavenly saber pavilion, and spending more than a month relaxing, he said goodbye to Lu Riyue and the others. Before he left, he handed the breaking sage pill that he refined to Lu Riyue. Lu Riyue was already very satisfied with Xiaochen remaining in the Sky Dome realm for 2 years. She knew that he would leave sooner or later. However, she also knew that he would definitely return. In the Kunlun realm, Xiaochen would definitely become a martial emperor. When Xiaochen arrived, the Haotian emperor had sent him over. It was convenient and did not cost him much. However, leaving would be somewhat troublesome. Xiaochen had to get the Sky Dome realm's Haotian sect master to inform the people on the Kunlun realm's Haotian star. Only after both sides were ready could Xiaochen proceed with the inter-realm teleportation. If he had Emperor Wu's strength, it would be much easier. By the time everything was ready, it was already 3 days later. A large number of spirit stones piled up in the transportation formation opened a space-time tunnel. Then Xiaochen calmly returned to the Haotian star. 2 years have passed. You are finally back. Outside the transportation formation, Xiaochun had not expected the first elder, Han Qinghe, to personally welcome him. So he quickly went forward and returned the greeting. The first time Han Qinghe saw Xiaochun, he felt a great change. Unexpectedly, he felt like he was facing an expert of the same generation. After all, Han Qinghe was a grandmaster-level martial sage, and was already 300 years old. On a second look, Han Qinghe discovered that Xiaochun was still an inferior-grade martial sage. However, his heavenly sage laws, which were as thick as an infant's arm, were somewhat surprising. As an inferior-grade martial sage, Xiaochun's heavenly sage laws were actually much stronger than those of a regular superior-grade martial sage. However, that was all. At best, Xiaochun's combat prowess was that of a medial-grade martial sage. Why did it give Xiaochun the illusion that he was an expert of the same generation at first glance? Han Qinghe could not help feeling suspicious. He was sure that Xiaochun had undergone an earth-shattering change in the past 2 years. Come follow me. I want to test your strength. Xiaochun followed behind Han Qinghe, flying unhurriedly in the air as he looked around. Compared to 2 years ago, planet Haotian was much livelier. Occasionally, Xiaochun saw groups of 2 or 3 youthful cultivators flying in the air. Most of them were half-sages. From Han Qinghe, Xiaochun gained a rough understanding of the changes that happened in the Kunlun realm during the 2 years he was away. Now the Kunlun realm was truly chaotic. The small-scale conflicts between the various races had already turned into intense battles. Occasionally, news of older generation superior-grade martial sages falling spread. The peak powerhouses and sovereign martial emperors of the various races did not interfere, allowing the battles to intensify. Furthermore, they did not allow grandmaster-level martial sages to interfere. Xiaochun roughly understood what this meant. The sovereign martial emperors of the various races had started this chaos on purpose. Their purpose was to use the intense battles to give birth to a few more grandmaster-level martial sages before the demonic god blood sacrifice arrived, increasing their chances of victory. When the demonic god blood sacrifice arrived, the true protagonists would definitely be the sovereign martial emperors and demon monarchs. However, the deciding factor would be these grandmaster-level martial sages. The reason was very simple. It would be easy to determine a victor between Emperor Wu and Emperor Wu. However, it would be very difficult to determine who would kill who. The ones who could truly lead teams to kill cultivators and collect spirits were the grandmaster-level martial sages and the blue-robed emperor. The battlefield of the martial emperor experts would definitely be the starry heavens. They would not interfere in the battles of the Kunlun realm. At that time, if one more grandmaster-level martial sage appeared, the Kunlun realm would have a higher chance of victory. Heroes emerged in chaotic times. Such a chaotic scene was also the best for cultivators to advance quickly. Although the price was high and a large number of older generation martial sages or younger generation geniuses would fall, the effects would be the best. The two of them arrived at a spacious training ground. Han Qinghe waved his hand and had the juniors fighting there withdraw. Then he stepped onto the training ground first. This action immediately attracted the attention of the disciples of the other sects and the inner sect elders in the drill ground. The first elder, Han Qinghe, was one of the few grandmaster-level martial sages in the Haotian sect. Not only had many disciples not seen Han Qinghe make a move, but even many of the inner sect elders had not seen him make a move. Chapter 870. Back then, Han Qinghe had been a peak genius of the Haotian sect. He was also the grandmaster-level martial sage, with the highest hope of advancing to the level of the blue-robed emperor in the Haotian sect. Xiaochun, I'll suppress my cultivation to peak medial-grade martial sage, and exchange a few moves with you. Let's see if you are as the sect master said reborn. What? The mysterious black-cloaked person in the air is actually the Qing emperor's descendant, Xiaochun, who has been missing for 2 years and was once the talk of the town. The moment Han Qinghe said this, a huge commotion broke out in the drill ground. Several of the newly advanced half-sages looked towards the sky. Xiaochun. 2 years ago, this name had spread throughout the entire Kunlun realm, shaking up the entire place. Unfortunately, after that shocking feat at the Sage Mark Monument, Xiaochen never appeared again. There were rumors that he was trapped in the Sage Mark Monument. In the past 2 years, several new talents had risen up, becoming famous. However, in terms of legend, none of them could compare to Xiaochen. How strong was Diwuk? Now he was shining brightly, completely rising up. Even the older generation martial sages were inferior to him. Some of the geniuses of the strong races that had existed since the ancient era did not dare to underestimate Diwuk. 2 years ago, Xiaochen ruthlessly kicked the top genius of the younger generation at the Sage Mark Monument, sending him flying into the air. Even if people temporarily forgot the name Xiaochen, they would not be able to erase it from the depths of their memories. After removing the heavenly sea cloak, Xiaochen landed firmly on the ground. Then he performed a cupped fist salute and said, "First Elder, please give me some pointers." This was a simple action, but Xiaochen gave off a certain air. Others might not be able to tell, but Han Qinghe frowned. This was the air of a grandmaster. At such a young age, Xiaochen already had the air and demeanor of the older generation that had lived for hundreds of years. What kind of metamorphosis did this fellow undergo? Han Qinghe rejoiced in his heart. He felt an itch to test out Xiaochen's true strength. If Xiaochen was just putting on an act, that would be too disappointing. "Be careful. I'm coming." Right after Elder Han spoke, he charged at Xiaochen with a loud boom. A fierce flame blazed on his body. As he moved, he became like a blazing star, dragging a long tail as he flickered through the cosmos. When he attacked, he used his best martial technique, Star Burning Fist. Once it was spread out, the entire practice ground seemed to have turned into a vast starry sky, giving off a boundless pressure. This startled the observing disciples and inner sect elders. This burning star fist was a superior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. Furthermore, Elder Han had practiced it for many years. Although Xiaochen had suppressed his cultivation to peak medial-grade martial sage, he had used this move the moment he started. With his current cultivation, it was too difficult to do so. Xiaochen did not dodge. He thought to himself, "Good timing." He shifted his feet slightly and assumed a stance. Then he punched as well. His aura suddenly changed. Xiaochen's body was like a saber, his intent was like a saber, and his fist was as sharp as a saber. This punch actually gave people the feeling that it was a treasured sword that had been unsheathed. A cold light flashed, and its sharpness was unparalleled. It contained the explosive force of the fist light and the cold sharpness of the saber. Bang! The two fists clashed, and there was a loud explosion. The two each took 10 steps back. They were evenly matched. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen clashed head-on with Elder Han's best martial technique. The knife-like electric light in the fist light caused Han Qinghe to feel a piercing pain, greatly startling him. After refining it a few times, Xiaochen tried to get rid of the sharp, knife-like electric light. However, he discovered that even with his medial-grade martial sage's law energy, he could not do so. Not wanting to go back on his word, Xiaochen circulated more energy. However, this knife-like electric light was painful and numb. Although it did not cause any fundamental damage to him, it was unbearably painful. Unable to resist, Xiaochen stood still for a moment and used the law energy that only superior-grade martial sages possessed. In the end, Xiaochen discovered that he could not get rid of it instantly. Only when he raised his energy to superior-grade martial sage did he manage to do so. On the surface, it looked like this exchange was a draw. In reality, Han Qinghe had gone back on his word and used the law energy of a peak superior-grade martial sage, so he had already lost. Of course, others, including Xiaochen, would not notice this small action. Han Qinghe could not help but smile bitterly. Against such a junior, he actually lost by half a move. If word of this got out, it would be very embarrassing. However, the more it was like this, the more it proved Xiaochen's strength. That aura was not just for show. Han Qinghe laughed loudly and said, "After not seeing you for 2 years, you have really given me a pleasant surprise. Again, receive my golden crow spreading wings." Han Qinghe's body spun around and soared into the air. He spread his arms out like a divine bird spreading its wings. He was incredibly strong, and a strong wind blew, causing space to tremble. Torrential flames spread out from Han Qinghe's back, and a fiery aura instantly filled the entire training ground. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes. The instant Elder Han spread his arms and soared into the air. It was like he had turned into a true golden crow. A vast aura locked down on Xiaochen, and the light in Elder Han's eyes became as sharp as lightning. Elder Han moved very quickly, like a golden crow hunting for food. In the next moment he would tear Xiaochen, his prey, in half. Clearly, Elder Han had grasped the essence of this move. The soul, intent, and momentum were all brought to their limits. Even a superior grade martial sage would not dare to face such a move head-on. They would either defend with all their might or flee in a sorry state. The moment an expert made a move, it was clear whether they were skilled or not. When the first Elder Han Qinghe used golden crow spreading wings, the eyes of all the disciples and elders present lit up. The first elder truly lived up to his name. He brought out 130% of the golden crow spreading wings combat prowess. If an ordinary person could bring out 80% of this move's combat prowess, they would be praised for it. She thought with some anticipation. However, she did not know if Xiaochen would dare to clash head-on with this move. Good move! Xiaochen shouted and executed the Kunpeng fist. He spread his arms as well, and the law energy behind him materialized a Kunpeng. The Kunpeng and the Golden Crow were holy beasts of the immortal epoch, holy spirits of legends. Xiaochen's Kunpeng fist and the first elder's Golden Crow spreading wings were very similar. On the surface, they looked similar. However, on the inside they were completely different. Han Qinghe had thoroughly studied the Golden Crow spreading wings. With more than 100 years of experience and his peak comprehension ability, he could bring out 130% of this move's might. If he used his full power, he could even bring out a might that was twice as strong. As for Xiaochen, he walked an unconventional path, blazing a new path. He used his body as a saber and his intent as a saber. Now, when he executed the Kunpeng fist, it also contained an unparalleled sharp saber intent. In the past year or so, Xiaochen had not only spent his time cultivating these two magic skills, he had also not stopped thinking about the martial Tao. Without a saber in his hand, he used his body as a saber, his heart as a saber, and his intent as a saber. Every move, every punch, and every kick was a saber. Xiaochen's figure flashed and he drew his saber. His gaze pierced out, and saber intent surged out. The immortal will of thunder that contained the vague form of a saber soul was compatible with a rank 3 physical body. Combined with his many years of immersion in the saber technique, he walked a path that no one had before or since, creating his own Tao. When the Kunpeng spread its wings, it hated the sky for being too low. With just one glance, it could cover the sky. When Xiaochen spread his arms, a strong wind blew. This wind was even more ferocious than the first elders, Han Qinghe. Xiaochen's punch arrived before Han Qinghe even though he moved later. The roles of prey and predator changed in an instant. In Han Qinghe's eyes, the approaching Xiaochen was clearly a Kunpeng. However, the image that appeared in Han Qinghe's mind was that of a powerful treasure saber shining with a sharp light. Not only did Xiaochen have a 90% comprehended saber intent, but it also contained the even more horrifying immortal will of thunder. Xiaochen had taken a different approach to this Kunpeng fist. He had already surpassed the limits of what the Heavenly Rock King could do back then, turning it into a completely different move. Han Qinghe's thoughts changed in an instant. He knew that if he used the combat prowess of a peak medial grade martial sage to clash with this move, he would lose for sure. Boom! Xiaochen's aura surged wildly. Before Xiaochen's fist light approached, his strength soared to that of a superior grade martial sage. He brought out the might of the Golden Crow spreading wings twice as much. The two fists clashed again. The two in the air each moved back 100 steps. Xiaochen's aura surged. The scorching aura of the solar true flame penetrated the surface defenses of Xiaochen's body and penetrated his internal defenses, heading for his internal organs. The heavenly sage laws in Xiaochen's body quickly flew out and wrapped around this scorching aura. Then he used the power of lightning to slowly purify it. The first elder, Han Qinghe, waved his hand and smiled helplessly. Let's not fight anymore. Let's not fight anymore. If we continue, I will have nowhere to hide my old face. I lost in the first move. After not seeing you for 2 years, Xiao Chun, you have indeed undergone a complete transformation. You have not let down the sect master's expectations. Xiao Chun performed a cup fist salute and said, First Elder is too humble. If you had used your full power, this little one would not have been able to block even one move. These words were the truth. Han Qinghe was a Grandmaster level martial sage, only one step shy of advancing to the blue-robed emperor. If Han Qinghe used his full power, the instant the burning star fist flew over, Xiao Chun would not even be able to see its shadow. This was the result of the huge difference in cultivation. There was nothing embarrassing about it. When Xiao Chun's cultivation increased, he would naturally have nothing to fear. Xiao Chun's words were unintentional, but when Han Qinghe heard them, he felt extremely satisfied. Although Han Qinghe admitted defeat, this Xiao Chun was very sensible, immediately giving Han Qinghe a way out of this embarrassing situation. After all, Han Qinghe had been defeated in 2 moves before so many inner sect elders and junior generation disciples. He still cared about his face. The elders and junior generation disciples all looked at Xiao Chun, not daring to underestimate him. Xiao Chun's cultivation had not improved much in the past 2 years. However, his combat prowess had increased significantly. He defeated the first elder, who suppressed his cultivation in 2 moves. Right now, senior brother Xiao Chun is probably no weaker than the peak geniuses of the various races who left their names on the Sage Mark monument. I believe that the geniuses of the strong ancient races that appeared recently would not be much stronger than senior brother Xiao Chun. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.